Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. This is a regular meeting for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tim Hale, are you attending telephonically? Stephanie Nowers? Here. Dee McKee? Oh, she's just walking in right now, Madam Mayor.
Okay, good.
Dee McKee, are you here? Maxwell Sumner?
Present.
Bill Gamble?
Here.
Dmitry Fonov?
Here.
Ron Bernier?
Present.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Okay. Is there anything any of the members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Do you have something? Yeah. Okay, we will wait. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Your microphone's not on, Dee.
I'll talk out of Ron. Consent agenda. Gee whiz, maybe I put him back. Hold on. Yeah. 25-100.
25.
And I think that's the only one. 25-100.
Madam Clerk, did you get it?
Or do you want to clarify for the record that she was pulling from the consent agenda?
Okay, the 25-100 has been pulled from the consent agenda. Any other pulling from the consent agenda? Are there any other changes to the agenda? Person Sumner?
Yeah, I would move to change 25-076 from unfinished business and put it immediately following the IMs, the informational memorandums.
Okay. Comments? Discussion from the assembly? Has everybody followed that?
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of people come out here from the public that are interested in this, so I think we should move it right to the top of the business. And there's actually a proposal that I think Ms. Nowers will be moving that might change some things.
Okay, is there any objection from the assembly to change the agenda? Okay, hearing none, then agenda. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, we'll all stand then, and Deputy Mayor Josh, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the minutes from preceding meetings. There's a special assembly meeting minutes from 15th of July and a regular assembly meeting minutes from the 15th of July. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, then the minutes are approved as presented. The next item we have is agency reports. Report from the City of Palmer, sir.
Thank you so much. Just want to give you a quick update. So the City of Palmer delegation to Roma just got back not that long ago. So this is the longest sister city program in Alaska with Saroma, Japan, and Palmer, Alaska. It's very special. It was our 45th anniversary of this. And so we sent some people over there to Japan, and Saroma rolled out the red carpet for us. It was an amazing event, wonderful people, and the delegation went perfectly. So that was a really amazing activity. And it really helped showcase not just the hospitality of Saroma, but the hospitality of Alaska as well. So we had a couple of things come up lately. So the city council at one of our last meetings is now allowing city directors to live outside of city limits. So before they had to live in city limits, now they can live outside of city limits if they so please. And also, we are introducing legislation on the next election, which is October 7th. And this will go to the voters because it has to change the city charter, which is to allow the city manager to live up to 5 miles outside of city limits. So that's going to be a big change to our charter that's going to go to the voters to either approve or decline to approve. And we also lately had a Palmer picnic. It was an amazing event. We had lots of food. We had fresh veggies from some local farmers. It was a great fundraiser also at the library involving some pies in the face. And we had a dunk tank that several of our department directors went to. And the water was not cold. Well, like it was the coldest water I could imagine for a dunk tank. So they were real troopers for going in there. So it was really great. And we also started the early on in the process. It's still pretty early, but looking to get a memorial clock tower dedicated to veterans and first responders built in the downtown core area of Palmer. So again, it's a little early in the process, but that should be a nice addition to our community. And lastly, we have an amazing public safety infrastructure here in Palmer. And I just wanted to say, between Palmer Police and we really appreciate the state troopers being there. And of course, our 9G base. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for helping to support the 9G base. We just recently approved the upgrade thanks to the reimbursement from all of you at the borough. So I just want to say thank you for that support. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Is anyone from the city of Wasilla? City of Houston? No? Okay. School district? Okay, I don't see anybody. State of Alaska? Don't see anyone. Okay. Did we have a joint? We did not. Okay. And does any of the assembly have a public relations report that they would like to state? Okay, don't hear any. Okay. Mr. Brown, your report, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We were scheduled to have a presentation by Sue Mauger. I don't know if oh, there she is. Okay, we've never met before, so you can come forward. So Mr. Gamble had requested that we share a presentation that was shared with the borough's Fish and Wildlife Commission with the assembly and public at large. So we invited Sue to provide that presentation, and I don't know if Mr. Gamble has anything he wants to add, but we got this scheduled at your request.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not too much. Thank you, Sue, for showing up. I know it's been kind of a coordination issue all summer, but I really appreciate you coming out here. The Fish and Wildlife Commission really appreciates the work that you've been doing. So thanks for coming.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am. Turn the
Sue,
mic on.
Sue, before you start, I just wanted to show you the wireless presenters right there and push on the smiley face to advance your slides.
Okay, and you need to turn the mic on too, ma'am.
Do you hear?
There.
There we go.
Yeah,
All
there
right.
you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor DeVries and Assembly members. I've really appreciated the engagement and collaboration with the Fish and Wildlife Commission folks to talk through this issue and to make a great resolution, which has been put before you earlier in the summer. So I want to give you a little context for why I'm here. I was a science director at Cook and the Keeper for about 25 years. Spent an awful lot of my time working on our changing water temperatures and our salmon and what that might mean for them in the future. And this is what I'm bringing you tonight is many, many years of conversation and research that's really trying to understand how best to bring science, our local science, which is being done by many, many different entities across the Mat-Su Basin, and how we bring that to some kind of conservation outcome. How do we help our salmon, but based on the local knowledge and science that we have? And it's been an active conversation with the Mat-Su Partnership. Jessica Speed has been a great collaborator on this effort over the years. And I'm sure you're well aware that the Mat-Su Borough is part of the Mat-Su Basin Salmon Habitat Partnership, as well as all the other entities listed there. And it's really a very active group trying to figure out what we can do at the habitat scale to ensure we have thriving fish populations for the people of the borough for the future. And as I mentioned, the work that I've done has been really focused on water temperatures. So just some quick recap of some of the things that we've learned over the last 20 years related to water temperatures in the Mat-Su Basin. The Deshka River watershed and the Big Lake systems are some of the warmest watersheds in the Mat-Su Basin and are likely to get warmer in the future. 2019, I assume you all remember that year. That was super hot, the Willow Fire. It was a very devastating summer in terms of its heat and impact on our landscape. And because we'd been doing a lot of research already, we actually had the instruments in stream to be able to see how fish migration was actually being blocked by warmer temperatures, as well as research going on around juvenile growth on the Deshka. And relevant to this presentation, we have also done work identifying cold water refugia, is what it's called. It's basically cold areas that are bringing groundwater into the river and creating nice relief spots for the salmon as they are either heading upstream as adults or downstream as juvenile. So I'm going to give you a quick primer on temperature and the Mat-Su. I spent 5 years with lots of partners collecting temperatures in non-glacial rivers all over Cook Inlet. We had 48 streams that we looked at, 20 of which were in the Mat-Su Basin. And the warmest streams that we found were in the Mat-Su Basin. So Jim Creek, Deshka, Fish Creek, Queejik and Trapper, which are actually tributaries into the Deshka. So those were our warmest systems across the whole Cook Inlet watershed. One of the questions we were trying to understand was like, how much variation is there out there? And there's quite a bit. There are streams that are very cool. But then we also were wondering what's going to happen in the future. And so with lots of smart people I worked with, we did some modeling to understand what these streams would look like into the future. And so it's the same list of the streams, and now I've added a thin bar, which is what the streams are likely to be in terms of temperatures in the next 30 years, and the thicker bar is, specific for that stream, what we think it's going to look like in 60 years. And just for a little perspective, 20 degrees Celsius is the state water quality standard that shall not be exceeded. It's considered like too warm for streams in Alaska, and certainly they are shown to be too warm for salmon. And so that equates to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'll talk in Fahrenheit from now on. So we have a number of streams that are currently above 68 degrees for over a week during the summer. We expect them to get much warmer in the future. And then we had 2019 pop up right after this paper had been published, which gave us a chance to see on a really warm summer, what do those temperatures look like? And so the streams that have an orange dot are the streams that we were still monitoring. And in all cases in 2019, we reached or exceeded the maximum stream temperature values predicted for 50 years in the future. So one, that tells us that we've probably been a little bit too conservative in our expectations of what the future looks like, but also it about doubled the number of rivers that are going to have temperatures that are stressful to salmon. And this is a quick shot of, I'm sure many of you, hopefully all of you had a chance when the Chinook salmon were really popping in the Deshka back, 40, 30 years ago. And there'd be tons of boats out there, people, big campgrounds. It was a big place to enjoy time in the summer, especially around the 4th of July. And this is a shot of, in 2019, the black line on the bottom is the number of Chinook passing the weir, which is about 7 miles up the stream. And then we actually had a temperature station right near the weir. And so you can see, I can't point, but once we get above 20 degrees C, which is that 68 degree temperature, the fish stop moving. And they hold in the lower part of the river, closer to where they can get some of that cool glacial water from the Susitna, and they basically just held until the waters came down below 68 degrees. And that's where you can see that second spike there, which is where the fish, it finally got cool enough and the fish started to move again. And so we do know that this impacts Chinook specifically in the Deshka. So we decided to go ahead and do some work in the lower reaches of the river. So the bottom 32 miles, which is officially the Deshka, where the Quijik and Moose River come together. And we did some really cool science. We had a helicopter flown over the river with this special sensor that gave us a really neat map of the water temperatures of the river. It's a long process, takes many months to actually process it, but ultimately we end up with a cool color map that tells us where the cold spots and where the warm spots are. And this was done with some Alaska Sustainable Salmon Fund money. Okay, this to me is fascinating. So hang with me for a second. Not everybody gets excited about charts as I do, but so this is a great shot showing you how unique the Deshka is and how incredibly important these cold water refugia places are. Most streams, when I was in school, stream ecologists are told that streams tend to warm as they go downstream. They get wider, there's more solar input hitting the stream, there's often a lot more development in the lower reaches of a river that can impact the flow of groundwater, and so streams tend to get warmer as you go downstream. Well, the Deshka, this main, the thickest line there that's red up high and then black, is showing a totally different pattern. That is going from the headwaters of the river down to where you see it dip down. That's where it hits the Susitna. It's a river that is actually getting cooler as it goes downstream, which is fascinating. And why is that? It's because all these triangles that you see and diamonds are cold water refugia. They're places where groundwater has a distinct connection to the river. And there's so many of them that they actually are bringing the bulk water temperature of the main channel that the Chinook are using. It's helping to bring that temperature down. And that's a really fascinating finding, and I think says a lot about why the Deshka has been a very productive system over the years. The funnest part of all this work is that you then get to go back and do some ground truthing, getting out with interns and canoes and actually checking out all these places. And here's an example of one of the groundwater inflows that is not just cooler temperatures. You can see the temperatures on the left side of the screen where the main channel is about 70 degrees. And then this groundwater fed channel has temperatures that are around 48 degrees. So much cooler. And it also provides some really great habitat. So I'm going to see if oh good. So this is a little video that was taken on the Deshka River. These are juvenile salmon that are keying in on this flow of groundwater coming down the bank. So you can see all those fish, they all got their nose tucked up into this spot. When the video comes down, you should be able to see the iron-rich groundwater. It was a little fast. But yeah, there we go. The groundwater is very iron-rich, and so it brings that orange color you often see on the side of a river. It's bringing cold water right into that. So the fish are definitely queuing in on those little cold water faucets. We found over 250 inflows in the Deshka. 13.7 are on Matsubara lands. And that's really what I'm here to talk to you today, are about those lands. After all the science, that's great and gets some of us very excited, but until you actually tie it into public policy, it doesn't have a lot of impact. And so the Matsu Partnership has been having conversations since 2021 about how do we get the science into policy. We've had field trips, we've had many, many brainstorming sessions, action plans, a lot of concerted effort by a lot of groups trying to figure out how do we take local science and actually impact local decision making. This is the list of tools that we came up with based on all those conversations. And I know when we talked at the Fish and Wildlife Commission, one of the questions was, well, why is it just the borough that you're coming to? What about the state? The state owns a lot more land, but they have different policy hooks. And one of the ones that we identified was the Susitna Basin Recreational Rivers Management Plan. Did a lot of work to get Fish and Game involved with that and helping us get some language about these refugia. But of course, that plan got shelved and hasn't moved forward. So it's there, ready to go whenever the time is right. But in terms of the borough parcels, you all have a great tool that exists, which is land classification and a term of watershed lands, which is a very broad term, but because pretty much all lands are watershed lands. They are all shedding water. But there is lands, you have a land classification in your code. These particular parcels, there's 13 borough parcels, are not classified as anything. They don't have any particular classification. The watershed lands description is there, and it's really a very broad thing. But what it does is that in 20 years, when I'm long gone from talking in front of a borough, I will have been able to pass that information. It's sitting in the plat of those parcels, and when discussions are coming up about what might happen with that land, there will be some reference to remind people that we know a little bit more specifically about these places. So it's in your classification system is in no way restrictive. It doesn't impact other landowners, public, people who have private land. It doesn't impact them in any way. We're just talking about the 13 parcels that are borough owned. And it's just providing just sort of a little asterisk, like, these are really important for keeping the Deshka ready for when the Chinook really start to pour back up at the river. So, and again, thank you to the Fish and Wildlife Commission for supporting and actually really they put together a great resolution that has a ton of information, if you don't know the Deshka well, about why we should care about the Deshka specifically. So I'll stop. Hope I didn't go too far over, and would be happy to take any questions.
Does anybody from the assembly have a question or a comment? Yes, Deputy Mayor, and then Assemblyperson Nowers.
2019, was the snow fall a consideration on the water temperature? Was that a lack of snowfall that created?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did actually do a paper that came out a few years later trying to figure out, like, why are certain areas hot and why are some others, not? And it has a lot to do with the landscape that they drain, but that snowpack is not a driver by July in these systems, that when the big heat dome hits us, it's in July, and whether it's a big snow year or not, in a system like the Deshka, that snow is gone, that snow signature is already gone.
Okay. Assemblyperson Nowers.
There's probably a lot of people in this room who have fished the Deshka when it used to be a big deal, and you could get 2 kings, and there was boats across the mouth you could walk across, and it was an amazing thing to go do in the valley, and a big attraction for people living here and people from outside. And I've watched that fishery shrink from 2 kings to 1 king to 0, and it's been sad to watch. And I just have been out on the river with your group that you were working for, and it was fascinating to see what you're talking about, these areas where the water is coming in that you wouldn't even know it if you were a person. It's not like a inlet coming in. So there's a lot to what fish like that we don't notice as people, and so preserving the ability of those fish to have a home when they come back, I think, is really important for the valley, because that's on our seal, right? Big old salmon. That's why we live here. So anyways, just appreciate the work that you've done, and hoping those runs can be enabled to come back. There's a lot to fisheries, and it's not just in river, but we have some control over the in river. So thank you for the work you've been doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Sure. And I guess the last thing I just wanted to say is, just so that you're clear, our hope is that you will direct the planning department to go ahead with the reclassification, or the classification. That's ultimately the ask. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay. Mr. Attorney, do you have a report? Okay, Madam Clerk, or clerks.
The clerk's report is in your red folder, and that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. The next item we have is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments by the assembly on the citizens or other correspondence? Hearing none, they are presented. Madam Clerk, would you read the IMs into the record?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. IM 25148, reporting conclusion of contract number 24-110B with Meyer Excavation LLC for a total contract amount of $536,013.81 for the Settlers Bay Drive at Crocker Creek Fish Passage Project. IM 25156 informing the Assembly of a memorandum of agreement and temporary construction easement with the Alaska State Department of Transportation and Public Facilities for the Church Road Pavement Preservation Project. IM 25163 informing the Assembly of the submittal of fiscal year 2025 United States Marine Highway Program grant application requesting $1,324,484 for the Port McKenzie Cargo and Freight Capacity Project. And IM 25167, Assembly notification of a land acquisition of the sewer system lot that serves the Big Lake Recreation Center.
Okay, are there any comments on the IMs? Assemblyperson McKee.
I have a question on 25167. What does acquisition mean? They're just going to give it to us, or we're going to buy it, or what does that mean?
Go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. McKee, we're working to acquire it, purchase.
To purchase. Is that in addition to the money that we've already spent when we bought the place?
It was considered when the budgeting was done. That was part of the feasibility report that was done over a year ago, recognizing that that system was on an adjacent property.
But I mean, was that considered in the purchase price that we paid?
It wasn't considered in the purchase price for the parcel where the building is because was owned, it's different ownership.
Right.
So we did include that in the report that came to the assembly in budgeting for it. Now we just need to move forward with actually acquiring it.
So any idea how much that's going to cost?
Not yet. I don't have a number yet. I mean, I could speculate, but I don't know that that's all that helpful.
I'm a little uncomfortable voting for that when I don't know how much it's going to be. Just a comment.
Well,
So-
it will come back.
Correct. It would come back for action. This is informing the assembly
I see. Okay, I'll go with that.
that we're moving forward with that. So if you do hear about it, you've been told in advance that we're doing that.
All right.
And again, it was part of that feasibility report when we discussed
Yeah.
the facility originally, is that we do have a system that is off of the
Separate.
intended parcel, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I did have one other one, just out of curiosity. For the matching grant, or matching money, the $331,000 for the port, what pot does that come out of?
Are you talking about, or through the mayor to
The
Ms.
one just before that.
Yeah, so we have project accounts that are for capital improvements at Port McKenzie. What we try to do is take that money and multiply it by going out for grants. And then we use the funding that the assembly's already appropriated to be the non-federal match.
Alrighty, thanks.
You see no other comments, and they are presented. And some of you may not have been here at the beginning of the meeting. We did change the agenda. So at this time, we will bring in from unfinished business, ordinance 25-076. And so we do have a main motion on the floor. And do we have any further amendments?
Need to read it into the record?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 25076, an ordinance enacting MSB 3.80 area-wide fuel excise tax in the amount of 7 cents per gallon.
Okay, thank you. The amendment,
Mayor,
person hours?
I do, and I might need a little help from the clerk, but I think my amendment is to continue this and place an advisory vote on the ballot for this November for a motor fuel excise tax that would allow voters to weigh in on this.
Okay, so discussion on the amendment? Yes.
I did not object the change in agenda because for some reason I thought we'll give audience participations first, and the way it's turning out, because we already completed for this specific piece of legislation, audience participation, I think it would be unfair to not let audience speak before we take action on it. But so I would like to Assembly
Well,
to reconsider.
This is only, this item is not up for public hearing? Because-
Correct.
Right.
And I'm saying that a lot of
You
people,
did not object to, I didn't hear you.
I did not know that this is where it'll end. So I'm saying I would like to reconsider my decision on that, supporting that.
Okay. Assemblyperson Sauter.
I mean, I would have some assistance from the clerk, but I think we could, if this amendment that Ms. Nowers is proposing fails, then we could move this on the agenda later on after the audience participation.
Okay.
Are you talking about amending the agenda again?
Yes.
I think you'd probably have to suspend the rules since we're not on that part of the agenda, and if the assembly agreed, then it would be okay. But it's also, I think the intent, as I understand it, was to continue this, if this amendment passed, was to continue this to December, at which time the public would have another opportunity to speak to it.
I think Mr. Fonov's objection is that, if this were to fail, then we would continue discussing this motion or the ordinance 25076 without any additional input from the audience, which I do share as concern.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say there.
I don't think the intent was to adopt the ordinance tonight. It was to leave it open, unless I misunderstand, Madam Mayor.
Right, yeah. It's the motion is going to be to approve or disapprove by the assembly the amendment. Okay? Assemblyperson Nowers.
I also think that if the motion is, if this is continued to December, then the folks who are here in the room could speak under audience participation if they wish to weigh in. But the motion I made, I think I need to, I don't think I stated a date to continue it to. Do I need to do that?
It needs to be two separate motions.
Two separate motions, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, so my first motion would be to continue, no, I'm sorry,
No,
okay.
your first motion is your amendment that you made.
It would be a primary amendment.
My amendment is to place this on the ballot for an advisory vote in November.
Yes, yeah, right. Assemblyperson McKee.
So when Ms. Nowers said advisory vote, are we just saying, what do you think, folks? Or is it going to be binding or what? Is that what's the intent?
Advisory vote is not binding.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
So why would we do that? I mean, we kind of know where people are heading. Specifically, what were you looking for?
I'll let her go ahead and address her motion.
Yeah, can I speak to it? So, to me, we have a choice about how we're going to pay for road projects. In the last 2 years,
Bonds or?
in the last 2 years, voters have approved 75 million in road projects. And right now, we fund that all through property taxes. So a fuel tax would allow you to capture some of those outside dollars and help take some of the pressure off of property tax. So I think there's parts of this that make fiscal sense to me, that you'd capture those outside dollars and you might be able to pay for road projects without going out to bond to pay interest. But it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of feedback from both sides, people in support and against. And I couldn't tell you if it's 60-40 one way or 40-60, you know? So I think it's a choice for the residents in the valley to decide how they'd like to fund these projects. And I understand the concerns and the distrust of government and a new tax. And I heard that, and I think some of the things we were talking about, having a sunset clause so it automatically expires, directing where the money's sent, and having a separate accounting so people can see it. I think those are things in my mind that help do that. But I just feel like this is a choice. I mean, we can stay with property taxes. We can do that. Or we can switch to fuel taxes. And I think we need to put it to a vote because, like I said, I am hearing from both sides so much that I think this should go out for an advisory vote. And I'd like to see what the people vote and go from there. So if they, if the majority say, no, we don't want a fuel tax, okay. And if the majority say, yes, we want a fuel tax, then we come back in December and we go through this again. And for me, it would be to have those things in mind that build the trust. So it would have to expire and et cetera. Does that help?
I agree with the building the trust thing. I absolutely do. But I'm also, I wish somebody I had this piece of paper that says, if you have an excise tax, this is exactly what it's gonna cost. We sort of have that, $42 a year a driver or something like that. But do we have the thing that says, okay, if we bond this out for like $1 million, billion in interest, which one is gonna end up costing the taxpayer less? It just seems like maybe a no-brainer, but until I can put those numbers on it, I'm not comfortable. So I was just wondering if we could shed some light on that, or, yeah, no?
Go ahead, sir.
Through the mayor, I can shed some light on the uncertainty of it. We don't have any historical data for fuel excise tax.
Yeah.
So it would be, I just don't think it would be helpful for us to try to be more definitive than we've already been based on how we've tried to create a window for these projections. That's why, one of the things with the expiration date was to allow some time to look at what it would actually collect and determine if we're hitting the mark we thought we would or less, more. That's why we were looking for some historical data. Based on the projections, we looked at DMV registrations and made some projections based on that. That's the best we have because we don't have any historical data to pull from to estimate it any differently.
You're right, we don't. But we must have historical data on, well, we do, on the number of taxpayers, property tax, you know what I'm saying, owners in the borough versus, divided into how much money it would cost a bond, the interest, even if you just took the interest amount itself, what would it be per household? We can say that we're not quite sure about the excise, but we should be able to say, this is what it costs the taxpayers when we put out the last bond, let's put it that way. I want to see some straight across comparison.
Yeah, through the mayor it gets complicated because of the number of service areas that we have, fire, roads, et
Yeah.
cetera. We can look at it from an area-wide basis. That calculation's fairly straightforward. But that's not going to show you the total tax, right? Because you have 16 road service areas, now 7 fire service areas. You have some special service areas. That's where it gets complicated. So to sit here and publicly say, this is the number, people are going to look at their tax bills and go, that's not right. Because it varies depending on the composition of those service areas, area-wide, non-area-wide. So, we can look at the value of the dollar and figure out how much that is per $100,000 of assessed value. I think we've already provided those numbers in terms of what it would look like from an area-wide perspective. So, for example, if we were raising $5 million in fuel excise tax annually, we can tell you what that average would look like if it was taken off of property taxes.
Yeah.
I think we've shared those numbers already, but I'm not sure beyond that what you're asking for us to be able to do. So I guess if we would just look at 5 million annually and figure out per $100,000 of assessed value, what does that equal? And I hate doing numbers on the fly because if you get it wrong, well, that's why I'm deferring. This is the phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Through the mayor to Assemblymember McKee. So if you take $5 million, divide it by what 1 mil equals under the current budget, and times it by 100,000, you get $33.62 per $100,000 of value in property. So the average, and I'm not sure exactly what the average value is right now, but I believe it's about $383,000.
$388.
So you would times that by 3.83. And
what?
so $33
Times 383.
So so the average taxpayer value would pay $128.77 in property taxes if we had a $5 million debt service.
Okay.
Okay.
So through the mayor,
We got
one
that
other
one
piece
pretty
that does not address the question you ask about the cost of financing.
Exactly.
Because that depends on rates at the time, how much you sell, what your service, that's where it gets really hard to put a number together and say this is definitively what it's going to be. We used the November 2024 package that voters approved. It was about $118 million in total value. We have not sold all of those bonds yet. We only have sold a portion because we only sell them as we need them. So for that 118 million, I think I shared last time on the record that we'll probably pay about $50 million in financing charges
Okay.
over the 20-year life of the bond. So basically, we're going to spend $168 million to realize $118 million in value. So that's a lost opportunity, right? So that's where it gets complicated. So we can give you those straight numbers. We can tell you what the cost of financing is, but that's always going to be a variable based on interest rates and our schedules for sales, et cetera.
But you could do a shot in the dark ballpark kind of a thing, couldn't you, where you took some averages or something like that?
But Council, Assemblyperson McKee, I think that's where the distrust comes on the government, because we give a figure here and then it doesn't turn out, interest rates jump up and it's, instead of, 58,000, it ends up being 63,000.
Yeah.
So that increases the mill levy then. And so then the people are saying, well, we know we can't trust you because you told us it was going to be this, and now it's this. And so.
Well, I'm glad we're going to have a chance to talk about this more, because for me, I want to know when I walk into the ocean, there's going to be which side, this is the alligators, this is the sharks. I want to know which one's going to get my fanny before.
Go ahead.
So through the mayor to Ms. McKee, one of the things that I was asked today, if this does get continued, it wasn't by an assembly member, it was a member of the public, is that, this could create some opportunities to go and engage, like a town hall. That would be a much better forum to have these types of discussions where you can go one-on-one with folks and talk. It's difficult to do that up here because you don't really get a lot of engagement, outside audience participation with the public. And I'm open to those types of conversations where we go out and just have people come in and let's talk about it and let's break out some tax bills and let's look at some bond schedules and let's, talk through some numbers if we want to do that. I mean, because one of the other variables here with a broader based tax like a fuel tax is it would realize revenues from residents outside the borough.
Yes.
Like we can clearly delineate property taxes because we have assessed rolls and we know that. Fuel tax, it's going to be different because you're going to have people from the outside paying in. And that's one of the reasons this tax was brought forward in the first place to consider was it'd be nice to get some revenue from outside and from another source other than property taxes.
Okay, Assemblyperson Sumner.
Oh, I was just gonna, but Ms. McKee, I did ask Mike for some, Mr. Brown for some numbers, and right now, our current annual debt service payment, so I collected, this is just interest that the borough is paying on money we borrowed, is $29,949,478. And the estimate for the bonds that we have to sell for those bond packages that were voter approved that Mr. Brown mentioned, in the next 2 years, the estimated increase to that debt payment is $4.5 million. So that's $4.5 million in that's not just interest. That would be interest plus principal. Yeah, debt service. So $4.5 million additional added to the yearly cost of running the government in the next 2 years.
Okay, Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
Just say, one way I looked at it is if I had the average home, I'd pay an extra $130 a year. And if I was an average driver commuting into Anchorage, like just roughly 20,000 miles a year, 100 miles during the week, and I had a 20 mile per hour gallon truck, it's going to cost me an extra $70. So that's one way to look at it. But again, I come back to letting people make the choice, because you can do the calculation yourself and decide, and you can decide, I mean, if you're willing to let government do another type of tax, like it obviously has benefits, but if you don't want it, if you can't trust government, I don't think it makes sense for us to pass it and increase, like where people say, oh, they just do what they want. They just do what they want, and for something that will help our bottom line, I mean, my opinion, but, isn't going to be the end all be all, because property taxes generate about $140 million for the borough that pays for everything. So you can see this is like, I guess I hate to throw out too many numbers, but 75 million in road projects, that's a lot. And these road projects are, King Arthur, they're Hemmer, they're an extension from Ingstrom to Texal. I don't think anybody would look at that list and say, I don't want this. If people start saying, unless they don't live there, but, you can't just like, I just get my road and nobody else gets there. But, so that's just how I look at it. I mean, it's a choice. I think we're trying to put the borough on sound fiscal footing, and we have a lot of people who come through this borough who pay nothing. They're getting a free ride on those roads, and they're using them. So we could capture that, but again, it's a choice, and I want to hear from the voters on it. That's where I'm at.
So, again.
Point of order.
Just to let it go at the end of that, with the town halls, that'd be a wonderful opportunity to, I want that last piece of information about the alligators and the sharks. I need that. Maybe somebody else doesn't, but I do. So, thanks.
Assemblyperson Fauna, did you have comment?
Yeah, to sponsor amendment, when you say, you've gotten feedback 60-40 and you don't even know which way, I know that that's not the case. The people overwhelmingly oppose the tax. I think most of the people in this room probably would agree with that. So that number is, I would say, not so genuine, especially when you drive electric car yourself, so this wouldn't apply to you directly. They will apply to average person. I would say, you're saying this is not binding vote, so we're asking their advice, but then we can really change it. So you're really thinking that's a borough, if something's going to be on the ballot to have a new tax, that it will pass. I would bet a lot of money on that, even though I'm never a gambling man, that it would not pass, even though you could show this them. So ultimately, it's a hard decision for us to make. I still would like to give opportunity to people to speak before we do make decision. But on this amendment itself, I will not be supporting.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not necessarily opposed to putting it on the ballot, but I am prepared to vote no on this tax tonight, so.
Okay, all righty. Assemblyperson Nowens?
I do think if we pass this just to the electric vehicle issue, that we should also be asking the state to put a annual registration fee of $75 on electric vehicles. I'm just responding to the comment, so.
Is it on here or no? I didn't see that. But
We have to ask the state
You have
for it.
not been recognized, sir. Deputy Mayor?
I came in tonight to vote it down. And if I couldn't vote it down, or if I didn't think it was going to go that way, then I was going to offer an amendment to put this on a ballot and have the people vote on it. But I can see a lot of value on a town hall where the public actually has their say, and we can actually get more information out there on debt, on what, because putting it all on the shoulders of the homeowner, that sucks. It does. But to be able to take tax outside, gas and all that, that'd be good if you could show a way that you're decreasing the property owner guy, because that's who's footing the bill. So that's what I got to say.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment? Okay, everybody proceed to vote then?
Assemblymember McKee, a copy of the amendment is in your red folder.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can propose a secondary amendment?
No, I called for the vote, so I don't know if then that's out of order, parliamentarian.
I think probably the best thing to do would be to make sure that the public is clear on what this advisory vote reads, because it was not read to the record.
Okay, I can, do you mind reading it?
I don't mind if Assemblymember Nowers would like to read it.
Yeah.
You want me to go ahead?
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, advisory vote on motor fuel excise tax. Currently in Mat-Su, almost all of the money to pay for local road improvements comes from property taxes paid by property owners. To broaden this tax base, the Mat-Su Borough could adopt a 7-cent per gallon motor fuel tax for a 1.5-year trial period as shown in Ordinance Serial 25076. The tax would just generate an estimated $5 million annually, which with direction from the Assembly could be spent to offset property taxes and fund road construction and maintenance. The question would be, should the Mat-Su Borough enact a 7% gallon motor fuel tax for a period of 1.5 years, automatically ending after that period, and direct the borough manager to prepare future budgets, allocating 30% of the revenue raised from the tax to be spent on reducing property taxes and 70% to be spent on voter-approved road projects? Note, this is a vote is advisory, and any legislation would still need to be adopted by the Assembly. That is the amendment that is on the floor.
And for those of you that haven't seen it in writing, there should be out there where you can get a copy. I'll give you a minute if you haven't picked up a copy and you want to read it so that you know. Does anybody need to go and get a copy, or has everybody got copies? Okay. All righty. So,
Madam Mayor, he could still move an amendment if you want to go ahead and move forward with the vote on this one
okay,
after the vote.
okay. All righty. So I guess everybody needs to vote then.
Can I get the members in the room to vote, please?
The vote is yes to pass the amendment or no, not to pass the amendment. It's only on the amendment.
It's a question.
One
for
question.
clarification.
Before we vote,
Uh-huh.
so will there be a town hall, able to have a town hall before?
You guys can ask for whatever you want. I mean, you're the assembly. You can set up a town hall. If you can get the rest of the assembly or the majority of the assembly to have one. Yeah, go ahead.
And through the mayor, or you direct staff to do that. Either way. I just suggested it because I thought it was a good question that was asked today about a way to improve engagement and have conversations about what that would look like, because you would buy the time between now and the election to do that.
Okay. We're in the
Question.
midst of voting.
Yes, I'm saying this specifically to what it does. If this is passed, this amendment is passed, do we still get to vote on the main motion? Because now we pretty much dedicating this to go through the voter, correct? Is that my understanding correctly? So that then we can't really engage anything till this is completed by a voter, right? I want to understand the process, what this amendment will do.
Okay.
This amendment would place this question on the ballot. It doesn't adopt the main motion. The main motion is separate of this. This is an amendment to add it to the ballot. The other, I understood from the discussion this evening that the intent was to postpone the main ordinance. This is just a question that is germane to the ordinance because it relates to the ordinance, and it would put it on the ballot. The ordinance itself, however, the intent, as I understood it, was to continue it until the first meeting in December. So it would still be able to be talked about by the public, and you guys would still be able to have your town hall if you wanted to have one.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Has everybody voted? Huh?
I didn't say anything. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, if I can have no discussion, please, in the audience, thank you. No. It's not time for the audience. This is the assembly. No. Matt, sir, I will not have it. You are out of order. You are out of order. I asked you to refrain from talking.
So if we vote for this amendment, are we hamstringing ourselves or binding ourselves? Maybe hamstring is good. Are we binding ourselves to the 70-30? Because I'm kind of uncomfortable with that stuff.
This is an advisory question only. You're not bound by anything with this amendment. Except to put it on the ballot for the
Put it on
voters.
an advisory ballot. That's the only thing this thing does. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So this allows the public to vote yes or no for this.
yes,
Putting it on the
it'll
ballot
be-
is the ultimate public participation.
right.
But
It'll
not
be-
like we're doing tonight where we have, rules of order restrictions on a town hall. You pretty much say what you want for however, how long you want to say it kind of thing.
I don't understand what you.
Because the difference between
We
this.
want to vote. We want to vote,
It's
okay?
just about the
That
amendment.
I've asked for the vote, okay?
Okay.
Discussion by the assembly is complete. Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Assemblymember Bernier, you're the last one in the room that needs to vote. Assemblymember Hale,
No.
On the primary amendment?
On the amendment, no.
Thank you, sir. Madam Mayor, the primary amendment passes with Assemblymember Fawnov and Assemblymember Hale opposed.
Okay, Assemblyperson Sumner.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the amendment that just passed and change 30% and 70% to 50% and 50%. And would be the time we would discuss what would be going on the ballot for how the future of the revenue would be spent, essentially.
Can I catch that again? I'm sorry, I was recording the vote. You want to strike 30%?
Strike 30% and 70% and replace it with 50% and 50%.
50/50?
So
Thank you.
essentially what would go on the ballot would be a question to the voters asking if they would like to pass this tax and allocate half of the revenue to reducing property tax and half of the revenue to forward fund future road projects that are approved by the voters.
Okay, discussion on that amendment. Assemblyperson McKee.
All throughout this whole thing, we talked about this being dedicated. I mean, you can't dedicate them, but the assembly, what they would be voting on is using these primarily, I'm going to even strike primarily, for road projects and stuff. But we have never before, I think, discussed whether or not we're going to use some of these funds for reduced property taxes. So I don't know if that's a good idea to put that in there, because that's kind of a sea change there to me. Maybe not to anybody else, but it is to me. And I don't want to bind us to that. What do you think, Bill?
Assemblyperson Howard.
I like that. I think that's part of what builds trust, is that the money is going some immediate property relief. So I like the change to make it 50 to property tax relief and 50% to voter approved road projects.
Okay, further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson
Yeah, and
Campbell.
to Ms. McKee's point, it's still not binding. After the advisory vote, it'll still come in front of the assembly at the first meeting in December, and we'll be able to have all this discussion, all the public hearing all over again.
Further discussion on the secondary amendment? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee.
That being said, by Mr. Sumner, then why did we not like the 70-30? I mean, what's the difference? If none of it makes any difference, why do this in that manner and putting numbers on it? I'm serious. 70-30, 50-50? Neither one makes any difference?
Oh, you're asking me why I want to change it from 50/50?
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same thought as you had. I think when you asked, well, are we committed to this 30/70? Why is this 30/70 going on? So I wanted to make this amendment so we discuss, if this were passed, how would that money be spent? Immediate property tax relief and forward funding roads. So why should we prefer one over the other?
Further discussion on the secondary amendment? Or it's a primary amendment because it's already passed. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Is everybody ready to vote? Okay, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Can I get the members in the room to vote, please? Assemblymember Hale on the primary amendment?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember McKee opposed.
Okay. Alrighty. So that takes care of that. Then we shall move to the next item, which is audience.
then-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't we need to continue?
Oh,
Yes.
okay. You want to do that now rather than later? Okay, go ahead.
So make a motion to
Thank you.
continue ordinance 25-076 until the first meeting in December,
Where's December
have that.
2nd?
December 2nd. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion on the motion. Any objection to the motion? Oh, okay, so we do have an objection. So, Madam Clerk?
Can I get the members in the room to vote, please? On postponing to December 2nd. Assemblymember Hale?
No.
Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember Fawnov and Assemblymember Hale opposed.
Okay. So now are we completely finished with that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is audience participation, and we do have a sign-up sheet, and you can address the assembly on any item that you would like to. So the first person. Is that a name up there?
Chris Tyree.
Oh, Chris?
Madam and sirs, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again on this. My name is Ken Huckabee. He's my representative here in the Assembly. I appreciate you, B. And I appreciate all you folks. Believe me, come out here on Tuesday night, and it's a big deal. So this is a plea, and I appreciate it. I just heard what you did, and I appreciate it in bringing us in, because we have a lot of language around this. And I've got a plea to control the growth of local government here, because I hear the word growth in the Mat-Su Valley. We don't have growth in the Mat-Su Valley. We don't have an economic growth. What we have is a refugee status from this kind of action in Anchorage. We flee from that. I did 10 years ago. And so if we don't have an economic explosion to take care of growth, we need to control growth, not grow the growth, because it's a false growth. It's not sustainable to do it without the money coming in. The only money you've got coming in is to enslave and indenture our homes for this thing. And I ran some numbers, and basically I heard you running numbers to cover property taxes, do away with them entirely. I say, if we're going to get in that spirit, I'm with you. Let's do it. But it's going to cost you about $6 a gallon tax. That's how big we are. That's what we're doing. And so I had a property one time in Oregon, and I was visiting it because it was for our mother. And I was asked to attend an assembly meeting in Walport, Oregon, and they wanted to build out the fire department, make it bigger. And so I went and we talked to the fire chief and asked why. The developers had come in and said, we want to develop the hillside, and they can't get the proper insurance coverages that they want because the fire department's not big enough. How in the world was that incumbent on the people that already lived there to cover the expansion of more people moving in? And when you got people living on dirt roads here, and from all I see, they'll always live on a dirt road, and their properties are indentured for the expansion. And you look and you see the side dumps and you see the concrete trucks running on these roads the developers have put in. They're about this thick. I've already measured them. They're not designed for all that traffic, and now they're getting chewed up by the very development and expansion from the people fleeing Anchorage. It's a real messed up situation we're trying to cover here. But there's not more money coming in here other than what you take out of people's property taxes. And it's enslavement to this thing. And we got so much of the education that we're required to do, and nobody wants to talk about, well, what does that enumerate exactly? We just keep building and building and building and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the way we feel. And I got friends that are leaving. I'm 63. And I've lost many, many friends that have fled the state because they can't afford it anymore. And as you go to yard sales and you ask that question, a moving sale, why are you selling out? I can't afford it. Well, they take their retirements with them. They take it all. They go, they leave. So, you know, I had another thing here I wanted to talk about. You know, we're losing the PFD because the state's growing. And there's no GDP there. We're just a bunch of people. We're no better than the kids in the Congo. We just have a bigger bowl of gruel. We're a resource development state. And most of the folks here, and almost everybody, we're out there digging in a hole, getting oil, getting mining and things like that. But we don't have a GDP. I've asked many politicians, and I had a discussion, what's our GDP? And everybody looks at me, well, we don't. That's the answer. We don't have a GDP. So think about that. We don't have a growth of funds coming in here. You just have the growth of taking from us. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
Speakers, or do you want me to?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to remind the public, if you're on the phone and you would like to speak under audience participation, please press *3.
My name was Chris Tyree, and what I just gave these people are laws that they're supposed to be obeying, but they're not. It's from this dictionary. Our Constitution has been colored with very many bad, unlawful laws. Common law is what the Constitution is. We're not under common law anymore. We're not under the Constitution. That means if it's been colored, that all of you are under color of law, color of authority, color of everything, meaning it's a fraud, it's a pretense. You're overstepping your authority when you keep wanting to tax everybody. That's why Americans became America. was because they wanted to get away from England and the king constantly taxing them or taking their food or taking their property. We have perpetual taxes constantly on our property. That means it's not our property. That means it gets stolen by the whoever we owe the tax to. They sell it and we lose our equity on the property. We should get our allodial titles. But anyways, I would like to read you one page here. Color officia, which is color of office. The English equivalent serves better, and most readers will not pass it over uncomprehendingly, like they will the Latin. Common law extortion is the corrupt collection of an unlawful fee by an officer under color of office. You all are always taxing us without our permission. It should be on the ballot if we want to. And you know, a lot of people don't look at what you guys are doing. And it's really sad. And I know that people come in here asking for money. Well, are they a bunch of little kids that you guys can't say no to? No. You can say no to some of these people on asking for money all the time. I'm really sad that it's getting to be this bad with the government not realizing their boundaries. We have boundaries. All of us have boundaries. And everybody's overstepping their boundaries. If you look at 18 USC and 241 and 242, you're taking away our constitutional rights to our money and to the right to be happy with our money. And I don't know if anybody else looks at it that way, but I do. And I'm looking at my grandchildren in the future. What future are they going to have if everything keeps going up, 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 and we can't afford it anymore? But right now, it's just maddening. But anyways, if you would please look at all this stuff, because it does say under color of law, an appearance, a semblance, hence a deceptive appearance, an assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality. That is what all of you have under the government, because it's supposed to be a constitutional government, but we're under maritime laws right now. And that's why we have these colored laws. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Daniel Potter.
Good evening, folks. My name is Dan Stanton. I live out in Meadow Lakes. So I want to ask you guys a question. Do you guys all see yourselves as leaders in this borough? I'm asking a question. Do you see yourself as leaders? A simple head nod? Okay, guess not. I want to remind you that you are representatives. Representatives. Not leaders, not kings, nothing along those sorts. This is not a right, this is not a left, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a matter of taxes upon taxes upon taxes upon more taxes. And I, for one, am tired of it. See this room here? Think that's a good showing? Not a very good showing at all. People don't show up to these things because you guys don't listen. The government is corrupt and it needs to be fixed. And I, for one, at the next ballot, will be making sure of that, even if I have to run myself. I'm an uneducated guy. I'm a high school dropout with a GED, but I got a 20-year military career and I work for the government myself. I made a good life. I raised 6 kids. And I'm very proud of every one of them. And I've taught them all. You have representatives, not leaders in government. Ma'am, you especially, you're out of order. Stop talking. We put you there. You sit there because of these people right here. So, I'd like to close with this gas tax is a no-go for me. If you're willing to give me back my property taxes completely, great, but that's still not going to make it okay to pass this gas tax. the majority of people who are paying for gas in the valley are valley residents. We have to work in Anchorage because you don't have the infrastructure out here. So, have a great night.
Thank you for your service, sir. Okay, Daniel Potter. So when I call a name, would you please honor the name I have called so we can stay in order, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Potter. I live in RSA 19. You probably remember me from a while back. I brought photos of the incomplete road work. In reminder of that, over $14,000 in February for RSA 19 was paid for 1 day of work by that contractor. Recently, over $1 million in contracts to Western Construction, who is one of the largest receivers of borough money, without proper bidding process due to an administrative oversight and other contractors. That seems like a failure of someone's fiduciary duty and should result in an investigation and potential disciplinary actions. If you have an administrative oversight to the largest receiver of borough funds, that smells rotten. The Public Works building over there, if you drive by, it's full of pickup trucks that are newer and nicer with headache racks and lights and fancy trucks and than most of your taxpayers drive. You're not short on money, you're mismanaging it and not spending it wisely. You continuously raise property taxes and now want to put a gas tax into effect, which will be detrimental to working borough residents' budgets. If you're failing to be good stewards of your current tax money you receive, why are you trying to gaslight the public saying you need more money when you are clearly wasting what you have? I bring you proof of how you're wasting our tax money. Lastly, I want to say thank you to the assembly members who are trying to cap the mill rates. At least some of you appear to be in it actually for the public good.
Okay. We got Samantha Carney. Hard to hear you. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Samantha Carney. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Samantha, and I am a young stay-at-home mom of 1 and soon-to-be 2 children. I would like to consider myself a reasonable and rational individual, so I understand that everything costs money, including the roads that you guys pay for. We pay for, you know. The cost of everything, though, is going up. Food, clothes, rent, much faster than any of us can blink. When my husband's capacity for work was full, we had to move money around and get a cheaper apartment. That took 6 months for us to find a cheaper apartment, and we were spending every dime we had. If we have the ability to move resources around, why can't you guys? My husband and I would like to purchase a house one day here in Alaska, but that dream is getting much farther and farther away. And one joy that I know that we find is driving past Chevron and seeing the cent by cent go down sometimes, you know. But your idea is to put a tax on something that people in Alaska have to do. We have to drive. My sister and her family live out in Point McKenzie in a dry cabin. They spend upwards of $300 a week in gas. My other sisters work in Anchorage and drive daily into Anchorage, back and forth. Everyone here probably goes to Costco at least once a month. That is a lot of gas. I believe it to be unreasonable and absurd to add on to the existing prices of gas, already as high as it is. And I hope that you would realize no one in the valley wants this. I would like to focus on the rising prices of just the properties, not just the property taxes, and you know, the looming threat of drugs and alcohol. You have not proposed a way to lower costs, just a hopeful way of getting out of debt, instead of reallocating the resources that we already have. When I rent, I am choosing not to pay property taxes that I can't afford. But this is a roundabout way to add a tax that I also cannot afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Autumn? Craig? Odom. Thank you.
How about Doge? Anybody hear of Doge?
Will you state your name, please, for the record? Thank you.
Doge. How about discretionary spending? How about pet projects? Advertising, marketing. There's enough free stuff out on Facebook, other media, free radio stations. How about overtime, pay raises, bonuses, some of the other things that were mentioned? I think those are some things where you guys could look at deeply to make some cuts. As it was mentioned earlier, let me remind you that you all work for us. We the people, put you in those chairs. You need to represent us. You work for us. You don't work for your pet projects. A 7-cent gas tax for a year and a half will only be reintroduced at the end of the year and a half, Assembly summer. Your amendment would say if the Assembly wants to continue this tax, the Assembly must affirm the vote to continue it. Once you guys get that money, you're not going to let go of it. You're going to keep it. Come on, who are you fooling? You know, Stephanie, trust of the government. People don't trust the government, whether it's local, city, state, federal. Mr. Brown, as you said, it's hard to give exact numbers. Mayor, as you said, if we say it's 48 and it turns out to be 52, yeah, we're going to be pissed. The gas tax is not a way to go. It's just not. Look at doing some cuts in your own house. Have you looked at doing cuts in your own house? I doubt it. Ask yourself that. I bet if you guys really stood back and looked, I bet you could get $5 million. Come on, today $5 million isn't a lot. How much is the annual borough budget? Somebody tell me? What's the annual budget of the borough? I think you could cut $5 million and not tax us. Thanks.
Thank you. Linda?
We can't hear you.
Linda? He wouldn't state his name. He said Doge.
My name is Linda Spohn. I'm very disappointed that you voted to pass a 7-cent a gallon gas tax without putting it on the ballot for the people to vote on. 5 people on the Assembly voted for it after listening to the majority of testimonies against it. This is not government by the people, for the people. The fraud and corruption part is you don't want it on the ballot because you know it would not pass. You haven't even given us a justifiable reason for this tax. The Mat-Su Borough spends over half the borough's budget, 58.1%, on a failed education system. Any business that provided terrible service at an unreasonable price would soon be out of business. The solution to this mess is to privatize education. Without the Alaska legislature, homeschooling without government strings attached is by far the best If homeschooling isn't an option, you need to promote, encourage, and provide incentives for private schools to start up in the Mat-Su Borough. Government has proven it has no business being in education. By providing incentives for private schools, you give parents more choices and competition to public schools, which makes a healthier balance. The failed education system is obviously where the borough's budget problem is. Alaska spends more per student than any state in the nation, yet our children rank dead last in academic achievement. Our schools and libraries are indoctrination centers in DEI, LGBTQ, transgendering and mutilating minors, and vulgar, filthy, obscene material. President Trump calls the Department of Education a con job. Even Governor Dunleavy admits Alaska's education system is a failure. We simply aren't getting our money's worth. The government is wasting our money. The worst part is, we the people and our representatives are not fighting for the children. This is harmful what our government does to children with our hard-earned money. This is very disappointing that you would demand more from we the people with no cuts or improvements. Government needs to be limited, or we bankrupt ourselves, our children and grandchildren, our community, and our nation. May God help us through Christ Jesus our Savior. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Mark? Mark?
Good evening, Mayor and Assembly. Everybody got one of these on their property tax bill. You got roughly 75 million going for borough operations, 58 million for schools, and goes on and on. I don't ever hear any of you say, go to your department heads and see how much you can trim. Oh, that doesn't happen. We just always need more. The state needs more. Everybody needs more. You don't ever ask anybody, how much can you each trim? I bet you $5 million would be nothing. Why don't you get a forensic audit of these departments and see where the waste is? Oh, we don't know. We just spend this money and we need more next year. And your little charades about having an advisory vote. We don't need an advisory vote. We need a yes or no vote on the ballot if we're for it or against it. We're going to advise you what we think, and then you may do what the people said. You just went through a budget process that ended in May, and how many of you knew this was coming up after the budget's passed? We don't want to bring it up now. You met in different areas of the borough. This could have been something that was brought, oh no, didn't say a word. Minute the budget's passed, oh hey, now we want to model ourselves after Anchorage. We're going to write a gas tax. And you think all these people that come out here are going to contribute. Do you realize how many people commute that aren't going to be contributing? Because it's a big expense to commute 5 days a week. They're going to watch what the gas price is best. And you're going to by far lose more people than you're going to gain buying out here. So that's going to hurt businesses. Business is what makes the economy thrive. It's not government. You know, I heard Don Young say gobbledygook, and that's what this sounds like coming to one of these meetings. Everybody talks in circles and, oh, we're worried about this. No, you're not doing anything. If it was a dollar for dollar property tax deduction, people probably would say I could handle it. But it isn't. There's no proof of it. And then certain entities, aircraft, well, they're not going to pay. Yeah, they probably don't drive on the road. What about all the river boats and all the guides? And if the Deshka ever comes back, are they driving them on the road? What about all the recreational users that come in the borough? Are they driving those snow machines on the road? And the people have a lot of acreage out here. People mow big yards. They buy a lot of gas. Oh, no, none of that's tax exempt. But a contractor, his equipment that's off-road is going to be exempt from tax, which it should be. I'm not saying you should tax people that don't use the road, but you're only doing it for certain people, not everybody. Let the people vote. Before you put an excise tax in, I don't care if it's for cigarettes or alcohol or what it is, that should be the people's choice, not you people, because obviously you don't trust the people. You wonder why we don't trust you? You don't trust the people to let the people vote.
You keep adding things to the borough, and you say, oh, you know, I'm generally a conservative, but I'm going to vote for that. Really?
Mark, would you state your name, please?
I'm sorry. It's Mark Spohn. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Jackie?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Jackie Goforth. I was going to speak about the books because this Monday you are looking at the worst one in the libraries. Last year, during the school district, there were 11 members on a committee to decide which books were bad and which books weren't. 11 of them all voted unanimously, and that includes all the liberals, that this book was illegally obscene. All of them. So when they come in here and tell you that no books are obscene, they're full of it. They voted that it was. That book is going to be discussed Monday at 5 o'clock because it's in your libraries this coming Monday. However, now that I have watched this advisory vote, all I can think is what you plan on doing is asking people how they'd feel about it. You're going to say, hey, would you mind this vote? Would you mind this vote? And that's what you're going to use to decide how much you're going to piss us off when you pass it. That's why you changed it to 50-50. See, if you'd have said 70-30, a lot more people would have said no. But since you said 50-50, some people out there might go, hey, if they take my property tax down 50%, I might consider this. And so you'll get a little bit more value when it comes to deciding in December when you're going to vote for it, how many people are going to be mad. And the other thing I want to ask you is, have you considered what that's going to do to the hand count? See, the more stuff you add to the ballot, the more time and effort it takes to do the hand count. And I don't know if you've worked 14 hours in a row counting ballots, which I have, but the more stuff you add to the ballot, the more it's very costly for the people who have to work. Even though you're not paying them anymore, it makes it so your pool of volunteers goes down. We're not in favor for any tax. And the reason why is once you stick your foot in the door and start the tax, you stick your whole leg in, okay? That's the way it works. The same thing happened over at Palmer. They wanted to remove the railroad tracks. And for years, the people said, no, you don't touch those railroad tracks because they're part of what makes Palmer, Palmer. And so they finally got us to say, okay, fine, you can take the section at Evergreen and Colony Way. You can take that section out because it's such a terrible intersection. We'll approve that. And you know what happened? They removed a whole block on the north side of the train station because you stuck your toe in the door and they push it open. And people wonder why on earth we wouldn't trust government. It's because he's right. He's right. There's no way you'll back off that money. And the other thing is the unbridled growth that is happening in this valley is really a problem. And if you don't think so, please go to a Wasilla council member meeting and listen to them tell you how they're going over 400,000 gallons of sewage every day, which is the maximum they have. And nobody ever counted for that. So they had to pass $25 million emergency to buy up more land so they could extend their sewage. And they don't know what's going to happen when it goes over 500,000 gallons because Nobody considers the infrastructure before they start throwing up these buildings and selling all this property because the contractors just keep getting richer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom?
May I give you these police reports?
Sure, yeah. Give them here to Brenda.
3 pages. I apologize.
That's all right, Tom.
There's no staple or paper.
That's right, thank you.
Yeah, you thought I was going to talk about fire hydrants. That's next meeting, next month. Same town, same station. Next month. This month, thank you, my name is Tom Robertson. And tonight, I want to give you the police reports in reference to, I'm still trying to get a employee of the year for the borough. I've been working on this for well over a year. And HR keeps telling me that if they have an employee of the quarter, and those 4 people should vote for the employee of the year if they ever get around to it. And they said that there's union restrictions, all that. That's not true. You people here have the authority to do it tonight if you really wanted to. But you have to have an incentive to keep people or you will not keep them. Something will happen and you'll lose them. The police report they get right now is because of one of the head engineer for the Bogart Road propositioned me twice for sex in that building over there we used to call the Kremlin. Now, you know he's got to be a pretty warped dude to proposition me for sex. I don't like talking like that, but I've been trying for a year to get your attention. We need the person of the year or employee of the year. You have to have an incentive for people to go to. They'll rise to wherever that bar is. If it's up here, they'll rise to meet it. If you have it down low like it is now, the grassroots, it will not rise. Your level of retainment is going to stay low. We want an incentive to encourage people. In the military, we have incentive pay. We had it called hazardous duty pay. It used to make us mad because the Air Force guys got paid more to stay in the plane than us Army guys did jumping out. I understand that. I'm not too smart, but I think there's something wrong with this picture. But at least they did have an incentive pay. It was wrong the way they did it, but they did it. You have to have an incentive pay too, or an incentive thing for somebody like that. You want to keep your good people. I am living proof of that. When I left the fire department, in the Kiski Fire Department, I used to take my leave once every 2 years. So I would take 2 months off consecutively and go scuba diving around the world. Well, one time I went over to Cambodia with the Catholic Relief Service to help out. When I came back, they were mad at me. First of all, the borough put me in for the Employee of the Year. There was no such award, but they put me in for it. My own fire board, and the Kiski Fire Department has its own service board. Some of their people were mad because they went to the Catholic Church, and they were mad because I went with the Catholic Church. I wasn't even going to the Catholic Church at the time. But anyways, so here I got railroaded out of the fire department by my own fire district, and the borough is trying to set me up to be the Employee of the Year. I got this conflict going, and then I'm railroaded out of a job, and Union Oil Company says, hey, you've been teaching first aid and CPR out here anyways. Come on out and be on our payroll. So I never thought I'd leave the fire department, but I did. I didn't want to, but I did. We'll see you next month.
All righty, see you
Same
next
time,
month.
same station, right here. Don't go away.
All righty, we'll see you next month, Father Randy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor
Good
and
evening.
council people. My name is Father Randy Hillman. I live here in Metsu, and honored to do so. The reason why I came to speak, Borough Manager Mike Brown, I commend you on looking at the different ways outside the box to reduce the property taxes. And however, in this particular instance, I don't think it's going to pass. I personally, as a property taxpayer and also a consumer of gasoline, one would hope, does not really work out. Because either way, I'm paying. Either way, I'm paying. And you mentioned to Councilman McGee, you don't know how to particularly calculate the usage of fuel. Can I propose to you to look at the gas tax received in the state and see if they can boil it down to what's received in this borough area to give you a gist of it and extrapolate from that what it would possibly cost. Now, I really participate like Maxwell Shumner was saying, let's do it 50-50. But there's no offset of utilization of fuel to how much property taxes you have. I don't see that in the new amendments or in the past documentation. So that discussion, and maybe in focus groups, might be boiled down. But this still boils down to two different things. As an excise tax, once it passes, it does not have to be passed again, even though it has a sunset. It's number two, like a gentleman said before, once you receive that money, you'll never give that money back. It's always going to continue. Thank you for letting me speak to you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Father Randy. Bob?
Bob Lochner. I was reading in this document. It's page 1 of 2, but it's in the back of the document. It says, taking on additional debt is not sustainable and places a debt burden on property taxpayers. Yep. That's your job. That is your job to not put that burden on us. So that being said, I mean, I agree that this is a ballot vote, not a borough vote. 100%. This should go to the people. A couple of things you said. You said $130, you were just hypothetical, $130 in property tax and $70 in fuel. Okay, fuel tax. What people don't understand is when you put a tax on gas and diesel, especially diesel, it's not just commuting to Anchorage and back. Diesel is what our trucks run on. So when we start taxing the crap out of these truck drivers that are already spending $3,000 a week on gas, guess what? The price of groceries go up. The price of lumber goes up. The price of everything we buy goes up. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to spend an extra couple bucks on gas. No, you're going to be spending a couple bucks on groceries, lumber, anything you buy, they're going to jack the price up because it's all brought in by truckers. So that's one point that we need to keep in mind. It's not just the gas commuting back and forth to Anchorage. It's all the transportation costs that will go up, and then the products and goods we buy will also go up, which everybody says gas prices are going down. I got a diesel truck. Diesel's been going up for the last 4 weeks, and it's a $3.84 a gallon. You put another 7 cents on that, it's like, holy moly. I mean, this is crazy. Anyway, that being said, my question to you is, and it's been mentioned several times, what cuts have you all made prior to introducing this ordinance? What cuts in the budget? I mean, there was mention about overtime. You could get rid of overtime. That'd probably save you $5 million right there. And another thing I wanted to bring up in the last 30 seconds, and I don't know what the borough alcohol tax is because I couldn't find it. Tobacco tax, Mat-Su Borough tobacco tax is 55%. You know what the marijuana tax is? Outside of city limits, 5%. Houston, 3%. City of Palmer, 2%. That's for marijuana, the marijuana tax. Now, Anchorage in 2024 brought in over $108 million in marijuana sales. Now, 7% of 108 million is 7.56 million. Something to think about. Now, I'm not a big tax guy, but I'm not a big pot smoker, so I don't care what you tax that. But from January to March in 2025, the marijuana sales in Anchorage alone topped over 25 million. Yeah. So maybe there are alternatives rather than jacking all our grocery prices up, jacking our fuel prices up. There are options, but cutting the budget is number one.
Thanks, Bob. Brian Endel?
Brian Endel. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, members of the Assembly and staff. I'm here to talk about 25076, the gas tax. First off, I want to address procedural. Now, Ron, I believe your heart's in the right place, and what you need to do is you need to get with the clerk and the mayor and make sure that this thing gets postponed. It's called postpone indefinitely, so that'll terminate this thing, and they can vote on it, and those people that don't vote for that, you know, we'll address that as citizens of this borough. However, Dimitri, you also mentioned that you were in favor of putting this down. You can work with him and make sure that that gets to the mayor and to the clerk, so that the first thing that's addressed in December is the postponement of this indefinitely to kill it. There's no reason that there are experienced members of the assembly that know better, Sumner. You know better, and you could have postponed it indefinitely yourself. Why not? That's the question. You guys need to get get with the people of this borough and do what's right. Now, I'm going to address some other things here. First, let's go to Scripture. John 10:10 says, Jesus said, the thief, the devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. The Democrats side with the thief to steal money from the people of this borough through taxes and other means. That's the only way that they can get the money that they need to fund their pet projects, and that's what's happening here. If you as the assembly side with the thief and make a decision to side with the Democrats and buy something or get something from them in return, is that not the love of money? Because the love of money is the root of all evil. So are you going to side, Mr. Sumner, with the Democrats on this one? Are you going to? You don't need to answer me right now. But I am displeased with what I see here from the assembly. And Fanoff, I talked to you before you were appointed here. You said that you were going to side with God on issues rather than the thief. I look forward to your response on this, and I'll be watching. I'm calling on members of the church in the name of Jesus Christ to remove members of the assembly that forward this and follow on with this, because we as a church have enough votes to put all of you out. And I'm calling on them, watch these votes. And if they vote for this in any way, remove them. I'm going to address the manager right now. Mr. Manager, I'm going to say the previous manager was very shameful in his actions. Putting your name and hiding an assembly member is just the same. Don't do it.
Jim Houston?
As you said, my name is Jim Houston, and thank you, Mayor DeVries, staff, and assembly for hearing me out. A breath of fresh air for a change. Willow is very thankful of the things that we've received through the borough in the last 5-6 years. The library, the covered ice rink, and so many things. Even the name of Mrs. Rosalie White on our community hall. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we were very happy to get, it was the library. But we were not confronted with a problem that came up. We have a very bad safety problem involved behind the building, where there's been a ditch built through our playground and recreation area. Following alongside of the paved basketball court is a 5 and 6 foot ditch dug to extract water away from the building. For 62 years, we never had a ditch, and we never had a problem with water. The building still repels water away from that area to the front to a pothole swamp. But with the ditch there, we're in fear for our kids and even our adults to cross the playground to get to the picnic shelter, other things. That ditch dissects the property into 2 pieces. And we were lucky enough and thankful for having $48,000 to provide a safety handicap trail to the back of the building from the senior housing. Mm-hmm. And with that, we took on a challenge to do it by grant from the borough, and we're responsible for making things right. And one of those things is to use the excavation for the trail to help reduce the amount of ditch we have in the backyard. We have a licensed 40-year civil engineer that has staked and planned that area. Along with him, I've helped in the surveying, and I have 35 years of like drainage of all kinds of facilities, mm-hmm. and even septic systems. Well, our plan is to cut the frost susceptibles out of the bottom of the ditch so it can drain and perk into the subbase, the water table, which is far below the ditch, and then put a minimum of 2 foot sewer rock or drain rock in the bottom of the ditch so that the water can pass through culvert from our trail and go towards the lake. Well, on top of the permanent rock is fabric to keep any sediments to go into the perforated rock and water. So, and then put the topsoil and grass over the top with still a light, slight trail that is not a hazard to pass. So we have communicated with the borough all the way until the final inspection, and someone new put their name on the form that said we should not fill the ditch. Well, we could lose a life in that ditch. Chasing a frisbee or a basketball, going headlong into that ditch could break a neck easily. And I hope that the brakes will be taken off of this so we can go ahead and do what's right and save possible injury in the future. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jim. Mike Bowles?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, members of the Assembly. My name is Michael Bowles. I am a constituent in District 1 and also a candidate running for Borough 1 Assembly seat. So I came to speak mostly on the fuel excise tax. Everybody here has said essentially what I was going to say. One of the things that I've been thinking about, somebody mentioned cuts. Some of the things that services that the borough provides could be cut. One right away thought is the animal control center. I love the animal control center. My wife and I get our dogs from there, and the issue is that it costs money and it can be privatized. And my understanding is the SPCA has reached out and they have offered to take control of that, and that could be a revenue source that is passed along. So, anyways. Thank you for considering getting rid of this fuel excise tax. I hope you all will vote this thing down. I understand it is just a vote of confidence, if you will, in November, but at least it's kind of moving in the right direction. It's coming sort of to we the people. In my opinion, it should be we the people that vote it down. So I would ask that you please change the language before it makes it to the ballot in November so that we can vote it down. Unless you choose as an assembly to vote it down before we can. Next issue. Ordinance 25-084. I call on the assembly to please, any assembly member, add an amendment that states a full exemption for all senior citizens 65 years or older. Senior citizens should not be paying property tax at all, whatsoever. There is no reason that any senior citizen that owns a home should be renting their home from the government after their home's paid off, or even if they have a little bit of a mortgage. We personally, my wife and I, know somebody that lost their home because of property taxes, and they owned the home outright, and that's just immoral. And so, at a minimum, the momentum's there talking about taxes. Please tonight consider adding that amendment and passing it, so that senior citizens 65 years and older moving forward do not have to pay property taxes. Lastly, Assemblyman Hale is going to introduce 25-090. This is absolute property right infringement. Please, don't even let this move tonight. Destroy it before it even moves. Kill it. Table it. Do what you need to do. This right here is just another effort of whatever body out there that's trying to control our property. The government and our neighbors do not have a right to tell us what we can and cannot do with our property. It is our right. We paid for it. It's our property. Thank you.
Okay. Mark Johnson?
Madam Mayor, Assembly, my name is Mark Johnson. I've lived out here since 1982, and plan on dying out here. I am opposed to the excise tax on the gasoline. It should be completely shut down, not even an advisory vote. Saying that it might reduce the mill rate on our property tax, that's just blowing smoke. You still have the assessment. This mill rate goes down, the assessment goes up, we still end up paying the same, and now we end up paying more for gasoline. Shut it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mike Alexander? Mike?
Good evening, I'm Mike Alexander from Big Lake. Basically what you're passing off here, first of all, comes right out of Mr. Whitekey's club. We screw the other guy and pass the savings on to you, since it's 10% in Anchorage and only 7 out here. The second thing is, the great savings you're going to have by the 50-50 split comes to about 1%. My property taxes since 2016 with the senior exemption, because I'm an old guy, from 2016 it went from $750 to over $2,000 this year. I want to know what the hell you're doing with my money. You're obviously not managing it very well. You need to do a forensic audit here, not to put anybody in jail, but to find out where you're wasting my money, because you are the government, you're probably wasting my money. There's a good shot of that. And also, like Thomas Sowell said, there is not a recorded tax cut that has never been followed by an income increase in taxes. So the less people are spending for that, they spend for things, they spend more money when they're not taxed as much. You're choking off the private economy here. You're not going to get anything bigger. If you're doing this, you've got 5 million. I know 70 million. Was it 70 million last time you sent to the school system? It's a failed system. You could cut them out of $5 million and you're not hurting anything. And that's what I hate to see is you people, you pay for the school system that fails, and then you want to come back later because you can't fix roads. And that's ridiculous. You've got 5 million somewhere running around. That's not a problem. You need to get down, and it's hard on you guys coming in and someone tells you what the budget is, but I think you should be able to look at that and find $5 million if that's your problem for roads. And roads is actually a job you're supposed to do as a government. We'd kind of like to see that. I get tired of dodging potholes as everybody else does. A lot of that's a state, but still in all, you guys have that same responsibility, and you're not living up to it. That's your job, roads. That's one of the jobs government's supposed to do. The state has now increased education so we can throw more money at the boondoggle, that's fine, but you could go into that place right there and probably find $5 million right in the school system. And that's what I'd like to see you all do. And if you're going to reduce taxes, I would certainly like to have a little relief, because on 66 acres, a house, a barn, and a machine shed in Missouri, I pay $480 a year. I have since 2013. If you're going to do something, put a property tax on it. Put us a sales tax out there and do away with the property taxes. You'll be amazed how much this place grows. It'll be amazing. But I doubt, like, it's not anything in your wheelhouse, so you probably don't have the nerve to do it. But do it. You will see a great boon in the valley here. If they don't have to pay property taxes, they will be here in a heartbeat. They will pay sales taxes. You can have a sales tax here and do well. And the thing about a sales tax is, if I spend 9%, if I spend, say, $1,500 on sales tax a year, I've got several $100s worth of stuff at home. That's about my thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Lloyd?
Lloyd Thurman. I'm from out in the Big Lake area. Thank you, Mayor, Assembly members, Clerk. Thank you. I really haven't spent a lot of time in trying to figure out what to say. Bottom line is, people are opposed to this thing. I don't think that you really understand how much people are financially suffering. I really don't believe that you are. And because of that, then you're not in touch with the people of the valley.
And until you can begin to grasp that if you're adding more burden upon them when they're about to fall underneath the burden that they're carrying, there's going to be a breaking point. Suicides are already high enough within the state to begin with. You know, the stress on families, everything else. You're just not really grasping how much people are suffering. And because of that, this situation is not really appropriate whatsoever. You know, I have a novel idea. Instead of figuring out another way that you can tax us, how about looking at ways that you can cut the amount of the budget? When has any government ever reduced? When? And everybody says, oh, I'm conservative. When? If you're conservative, why is the budget more every single time? Why can't it be less? There has to be graft and corruption. As one other person said earlier, he said, do you heard of a thing called Doge? You know, billions and billions of dollars. I mean, do we know where it's going? No, we don't even know where it's going. Good grief, come on. There is ways, and the portion that they brought up about the educational, when you're paying that much, and you're the ones that let the money go, that and the legislature, but you can be responsible. You can say, I'm sorry, until you can begin to produce a higher educated student, which is robbing them of their future. It's robbing them of their future because of their ignorance that they don't know. Then you're cheating them. At the same time, all the retirement programs and everything else, and all the massive administration portion of the educational system, all the superintendents in the different districts, you could be run it by about 4 or 5 for the whole entire state. And what is it? They have about 20 some odd 7 or something like that. Nonsense, absolutely nonsense. So anyhow, some other ideas being presented there. And also the other factor is if you're going to propose, and just cut the taxes. I hate to even say it, but if you're going to make taxes, make them universal where everybody's got to pay them. The property owners are the ones that are taking the whole hit on this thing. The owners aren't. You know, so how are they going to vote? Well, I'm voting for the property owners to be able to pay more. Make it universal, but I'm just saying to begin with, why don't you really show the guts and absolutely reduce the amount? Make cuts, please, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd. Dave Maxwell?
Good evening. My name is Dave Maxwell. I'm Palmer. I'm kind of offended by the fact that I have to be here again to tell you the same thing I told you last time, to be honest with you. So please hear me clearly. One thing I would like to address, Stephanie, thank you for bringing up the subject of people don't trust the government. That was a gutsy statement, especially with me in the audience, because I used to work for the government. And guess what I am? I'm a whistleblower. I was telling the truth. I have the document that the investigator that works for the state wrote, thanking me. But from there on, I got retaliated against and eventually fired. I don't got my retirement. They stole it. So I know what the inside story is as to why people don't trust the government. I've heard stories tonight about little incidents here, you making reference to 52 versus 49. Those are irrelevant in comparison to what's actually happening within those walls of government. And that's what's disgusting to me, that nobody knows. They know a lot more now than they did 13 years ago when I was the whistleblower. I worked for the Department of Labor, whistleblower there. They ran me out of town, that was in Seward, and then I ended up in DOC, Palmer Corrections. The reason Palmer Corrections actually shut down under Walker, do you remember that? That was because of me, because I was exposing what they were doing. And they could not afford, not money, they couldn't afford to allow the information to get in the public's hands. Okay? That's your government corruption. That's why we don't trust you. Because stories like mine have gotten out because I've not been bashful. Okay? So number one, Mike, you got a good idea. Let's have the town hall. I invite it. But I'm afraid you won't. None of you will. Because you're going to get a flash in the pan of audience participation that is so pent up and pissed off that you're not going to be able to take it. Mike Dunleavy is a classic case of it. He tried to open the door, but he got so hard smacked in the head, he shut it. That's what's going to happen to you. I have not had a venue. Thanks to X, thanks to Facebook, thanks to social media, that's the only place that I've actually gotten an opportunity to actually tell the story. Edna, you know for a fact the reason Mike Dunleavy surrendered at a New Life meeting where he was coming to give some kind of hyperbole crap. And I called him out and told him he was a liar, and there was 200 people in the audience. And did you see his knees? They buckled. At that point, he relented and gave me 1 hour of his personal time, and he was so afraid of me and the documents that I had that he brought his attorney general. Imagine that. I'm just a citizen. I'm one that was retaliated against. That's what the government's afraid of. They are so, this is an us and them. But I'm telling you, it's not the people. It's the government. They're not disclosing what's actually going on. And I'm inviting Mike, do it. Do a town hall. I dare you. I have a lot more to say. I wish I could, but I am totally against taxing any more. No, absolutely not.
Thank you, Dave. Janice?
Good evening. My name is Janice Norman, and I'm a longtime Matt Valley resident. I am going to talk from the IM 25-136, which I believe is what came out when this whole talk about the gas tax started. And I just want to start on a couple key points that I had selected here. It says, this fuel exercise tax is not intended to support government operations or to grow government. It is intended strictly for funding road improvements, which also include addressing roads currently not maintained by the borough because they do not meet borough standards for maintenance. Another point that I want to bring up, this excise tax on fuel could generate up to $5 million in revenue annually. It is the borough manager's intent that this revenue be allocated to future road and related infrastructure projects to reduce the need for issuing debt. However, and that's the big word that I want to stress right here. However, as with all revenue, the Borough Assembly will have the ultimate decision on how the revenue is allocated in the future. This is a real big concern for me. So this is why I think that, number one, this should be put to the voter and not to the Assembly. The last point that I want to make, or that I want to talk about, this ordinance is virtually a direct copy of the Anchorage excise tax on motor fuel, which was enacted in 2017. There are differences in nomenclature, some administrative differences to reflect that the Matanuska-Susitna Borough is not a unified home rule municipality, and some of the penalties. The main difference is that the Anchorage excise tax is 10 cents per gallon, and the proposal here is 7 cents per gallon. I was talking to my husband about this tax, and he said, you know, he's talked to so many people in Anchorage that have even forgotten that they're being taxed for their gas, 10 cents on the gallon. They forgot about that. So they don't even know where their money's going. I absolutely do not want to see us being taxed for gas out here because I'm afraid that we are going to have the same problem here. If it goes into a general fund, you guys are going to be buying Dominion machines or something instead of using it on the roads. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, that takes care of everybody that signed up, but now it's open to anybody that would like to address the assembly on any subject. Yeah, come on, Ken.
I thought I signed up, apparently not. My name is Colleen Begg. Okay.
Your name's
That's okay.
not on.
That's okay.
Okay.
My name is Colleen Begg, and I
I
just
may call on you for something else sometime that you weren't prepared to talk about.
Nope, this is fine.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make note that we the people, we complain about potholes. We the people complain about dirt roads, congestion through Wasilla. We complain about lack of infrastructure for the growth that's happening out here. We the people also voted for a $75 million bond for roads. And somewhere you were supposed to come up with that. There have been some really great ideas here tonight about where to come up with that money. But we the people voted for that and expect you to find it somewhere. So whether it's a gas tax that I agree needs to go to a vote of the people, sales tax, which by the way went to a vote of the people a few years ago and was voted down, or some other venue, tax pot, tax wine, tax cigarettes, I don't care, I don't do any of those things. But we voted for that. I may not have, nobody in this room may have, but somebody did because it passed. So we are also now indebting you to find a way to provide for that. A suggestion I would have, however, is one of the things that you don't have the authority to do is actually allocate any taxes for anything specific. That is something that the state does, and that might be a place to start. Go to the legislators, try to get a state statute changed so that, in fact, if you do collect a tax for gas specifically, or make cuts for something else to allocate for roads specifically, you talk to your legislators, we get that changed at the Alaska statute level. Because I think that if we're going to be collecting money and you're going to go through all of this abuse that you've taken tonight, you should have more authority on where you direct that money. So thank you for your time. I really thank you for everything that you do. I was also asked to speak on behalf of North Lakes Community Council. Our president couldn't be here. I'm the vice president. And the camp project that you're voting on, we fully support that. We thank you for all the work. Staff has been working really hard on that. A lot of overtime on that is well deserved, but I think you have a good plan and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Thanks. I'm Ken McCarty. Thank you, Mayor, Assembly members, for the borough manager and the clerk. And also for everyone here. This has been an interesting evening. I was going to cut it short because, like many of you, I'm eager to go get fish. And as soon as this is done, I'm taking off to the Kenai. And one of the things that we do as Alaskans is opportunity, looking at that and making the opportunity happen. And that's a very outstanding thing of Alaskans. I'm coming before you to talk about this concept that I brought to your attention over a month ago regarding annexing Chugach Eagle River into Mat-Su. So we're tired of seeing what's going on with Anchorage. And interesting enough, and I encourage you to read the book Between Two Rivers and Starlight Memories and stuff like that, that really our communities here in Palmer and Chugach and Eagle River were the tight group together. That Palmer, Mat-Su helped make Chugach Eagle River happen. And so as we're looking at the situations of our value systems that we have in Chugach and Eagle River, and the value systems that here, just the fact that everyone here gets to speak before the assembly, that's not happening in the other side of the river. And so we have presented to the Boundary Commission a preliminary proposal of over 540 pages of saying we would like to be part of Mat-Su. That the details of it, there's some things that they gave back to us saying we need to clean up some things. There's a potential of $40 million a year coming to Matsu. Could help with roads, could help with a few other things. Chugakika River already has service areas, so it may need some other type of things, but we already have roads, parks. We have the fire department there, at least the Chugak Volunteer Fire Department, which is amazing. So just sharing with you that this is the process. We're going through that, and as soon as I catch my allotment of fish and a few of the other people that are in this process here, that we're going to come back to you to share more of where the process is at, and asking the assembly members to take a position to where do you want to go. Because here's the bottom line. If Matsu is not interested in this, it ends. Because we're not going to spend energy on something that's not going to happen. Does that make sense? So thank you for your time, and good luck on your fishing.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Kerstin Schmidt. I was here last time as well and spoke. I actually wrote a bunch of emails to a few of you. Your name might be now ringing a more of a her again. What I wanted to say, you said it was $70 per average driver, and I just wanted you to look at numbers, even though we're not looking at numbers too much. $70 per average driver. Now, I know a lot of families who have now at least 3 average drivers in their household. It is not just 1, it is not just 2, it is 3. Because the younger generations, unfortunately, cannot buy a home. So they live back in the basement, back in a little tiny house on their parents' property. They are an average driver. So you said the average person who pays property tax pays 130, 40, whatever it was. So let's say it is 2 average drivers. We are already even. Now here's my other question. What about the disabled vet? The disabled vet right now who has a minimum amount of income because they're disabled and they cannot work. They don't pay as much property tax, but they're going to pay the 7 cents. They might be struggling already with what they have because a lot of them are not on a retirement, because it's actually really hard to get disability from the VA and get it the right way. That's a fight. What about a senior who has worked for years and years, lived in the valley, did whatever they needed to do, had kids here, lived here. Now they have a limited amount of property tax they have to pay because they only have a small house. So their property tax is already lower. So now the kids maybe move to Talkeetna. They can't visit them if it's 7 cents more. They have to reduce that. I'm not just saying, I'm talking about the average driver, but I'm also saying everything is going to go up. Everything is already up. PFD is down. Electric is going up. Gas is going to be limited soon at one point because that's what we're hearing in the news. It's like there's a gas limit and natural gas is going to be outrageous at one point probably, or you have to change your heating system in your house. That's all expenses people have. And who's going to be hit the most? I feel with that gas tax, the person who already struggles is hit the most because those people, they don't have an electric car. They can't afford that. They don't have a car which has 25 miles per gallon. It is 40 miles or something. They already have a tiny car. They're trying to just go through. I want you to just consider that as well when you do your vote. What are you doing for the veterans instead? Because that is an additional cost for them. What are you doing for the seniors instead? So there should be an amendment done for that.
Can you wrap it up, please?
That would be it.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Good evening. My name is David Eastman, borough resident. You know, there are 2 things that Alaskans cannot live here in Alaska without. one of them is food, another is energy. Whoever came up with this particular tax found a way to make the price of both go up. And for those who are on the edge, who are trying to make ends meet, or, gosh, I know friends and families, we have some young kids at home, other families in the same situation aren't here in Alaska anymore because they couldn't make ends meet. Anytime you raise those costs, it's that many more people that are going to have to leave our state. And you are empowered to represent them. And if the decisions you're making cause some of them to leave the state, that's a heck of a way to represent. Maybe it's just a few, small tax. Bigger tax, more people have to leave. When I look at proposals like this, I say, wow, the borough is becoming more like Anchorage. I used to live in Eagle Rivers. I remember when Anchorage passed their 10 cents a gallon tax. And now we want to pass one too? Really? When I go into Anchorage, when I have to, I don't get gas in Anchorage. I know a lot of people don't either. They get it here in the valley because we don't have a 10-cent tax. You add 7.5 cents tax, how many people do you think are going to start buying their tax in Anchorage? I think maybe I would get my gas at Costco if that was the case. You're kind of encouraging me to. So the one advantage that we have of having our gas cheaper, well, now we lose that to Anchorage. How is us buying gas in Anchorage helping the borough? Is it? Ronald Reagan summed up government's view of the economy in 3 lines. He said, if it moves, tax it. Kind of like this. If it slows down, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. And I find proposals like this fall right in line with that. There are some people who are very excited about proposals like this because there are some people who really like the idea of fewer people living in Alaska. Maybe they don't want anybody to live in Alaska. Maybe they just want, a few of their closest friends to be here. That's the direction we go when we make things that are absolutely essential, like groceries, harder and more expensive. Some people take their kids to school, they drop them off. It makes it a little bit harder for them to do that now. There's a few more kids in the bus. Well, the borough's going to pay for that too. All those things that we do as Alaskans that require energy, when you make energy more expensive, it makes it harder for us to do them. That's fewer trips, fewer visits to relatives, all those things that we want people to be doing, like visiting senior citizens, visiting grandma and grandpa. Well, yeah, they'll still do it. They just won't do it as often or as many times. And I find that discouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jesse Sumner, Master Borough resident. I'd just like to say something that I noticed that happened a lot when I was on the assembly is a contentious issue would come forward. Folks would come out, speak out against it, and it would get postponed, and it get postponed until people stop paying attention. I think it's pretty disrespectful to the public, to be honest, to kick the can on contentious issues. People have, they have jobs, they have real lives, and they can't just come to assembly meeting after assembly meeting. So if you're going to bring a contentious issue, I would encourage the assembly, take a vote on it. Vote it up, vote it down. People can vote in November based upon that, about what they think about your idea. But the other thing I'd say is you're bringing a resolution on the ballot. The way the resolution is phrased, you could never bring that as a ballot proposition because you cannot designate revenue. So whether it's 50-50 or 70-30, I think it's inappropriate to put that on the ballot either way, because the reality is that the revenue raised can be spent however the assembly, and it could be any future assembly, decides to spend it. So the question should really be, do you want a tax on fuel to pay for government? Because that's what it is. Now, Assembly Member Sumner, I have not seen you bring forward, to my knowledge, anything that would save money. I believe I've told you on a number of occasions that it seems like we're building a little kingdom down at the dump. I see buildings going up there. Somebody mentioned the animal shelter. I did once try to reduce that expenditure. It is completely unnecessary for the Matsu Borough government to be running an animal shelter. A private nonprofit could be running it. So I would ask, maybe before you bring forward a bunch of taxes that I'll pay, maybe look for a little bit of savings. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Anyone else who would like to address the assembly? Yes.
Good evening. Jesse's a little short. My name is Andrew Traxler, and I'm sitting here in the crowd and listening to all this, and, you know, kudos to you trying, okay, to solve an issue. We have an issue, and none of that issue's been talked about tonight. So, yes, I'm on an RSA board. Yes, I've been around it for 14 years. Yes, for 14 years, I've seen Matsu Borough residents who have paid property tax and RSA tax for the last 30 years to being told your road will not be maintained in your lifetime. That is an absolute true statement. I just told a resident that the other day. You have paid property taxes and RSA taxes for the last 30 years. Your road will not be maintained in your lifetime. It'll never happen at the current funding rate. Now, the Borough Assembly tasked the manager with finding a revenue source to solve this issue. You don't have the money. You don't have a place to cut it. Just fact. If not, he wouldn't have his job. You voted for him to keep his job. Okay? So, as an RSA board member, I will continue to tell people their road will not be maintained in their lifetime. Last summer, I went to a road where an ambulance was stuck in the road. Okay? They put $80,000 into that road this year. The other roads that I know will not carry a fire truck or ambulance, I cannot fix. Cannot recommend to you to fix them. Okay? And we're sitting here debating about somebody spending $7 a month on a fuel tax. That's what this has been about. Maybe it's $12 a month. I spent $15 at McDonald's on the way here. It cost me $40 just to drive over here. I mean, I understand once a tax goes in, it probably won't go away. But should we be telling Matsu Borough residents we have 105 miles of road in RSA 21? There's actually 135 miles. So that means 30 miles are not maintained. We got a teacher up here. You're a whiz, that's like 28% of roads we don't maintain. Those property owners have the exact same property value estimate. They said pay the exact same property tax per 100,000. They pay the exact same RSA tax per 100,000. So we can't fix that. We've kicked that can down the road for 30 or 40 years. And you folks have had the nerve to bring something forth to say this way everybody pays. Okay, and you're getting beat up for it. And it can be expected. Somebody's got to be the adult in the room. Got to find a funding source. That's the way it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Andrew. Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on any subject? Okay, I understand we do have at least one person online. Okay. Whoever's online, if you want to go ahead, please.
Yes, this is Mike Coons calling. On this advisory vote, and they talk about these town halls to explain what this is going to be doing or not doing. Yeah, is this going to be town halls as in plural? Or is it going to be a town hall? Is it going to be advertised on radio, in papers, on social media? Is it going to be, people going to know that they can go to Palmer on such and such a date, or Wasilla, or Willow or Talkeetna or Sutton, are those people going to be? I live in Meadow Lakes. Why would I want to drive all the way to Palmer when we could have a town hall right here in Meadow Lakes? It just doesn't make any sense. I am paying this tax period. I am paying $1,126 for RSA. Now, the last speaker just really perked my interest because I live on Coronado. It's a gravel road. We have brand new homes. I own one of these brand new homes in this little subdivision we got. And to hear that I'm never going to see this road maintained in my lifetime, and I'm 73, so I don't know how many more years the good Lord got me figured in doing it, but it doesn't sound like the potholes that we got on Coronado is going to get fixed anytime soon. I lived up on Lazy Mountain off of Teresa. We got some graders coming through at least twice a year. That was good. I was tickled to death about that. I haven't seen a grader once since I've been here, and I've been here since January now. I'm really confused about this tax. Is it going to be to reduce the RSA, or is it going to reduce the overall? Because the ARA real tax that I paid is $3,522. So my payment, my pay this year is $5,600. And oh, by the way, I'm a senior. I'm 73 years old. But because I sold my house on Lazy Mountain and bought this house, and this house got purchased after December 31st, oh, gee, guess what? I'm paying the full boat. I have to wait till next year to take that $287,000 deduction. But yet, I've lived in the valley since 1994, but all of a sudden now I'm being treated like I'm coming in from Anchorage. So it's really kind of confusing. But if this is going down to a vote today, I'm a no vote. And I hope that when that happens, and a resounding no on this advisory, that this assembly says, table it and kill it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Okay, go ahead, whoever's next online, please.
Hello, my name is Liliana Beish, and I live in the Meadow Lakes area. I'm just asking you guys to maybe tax different things, because I know you're going to tax us no matter what. And I understand that we all use gas every day, but we all also buy things like junk food. Why can't you tax things like junk food, alcohol, marijuana products, vaping, stuff like that? Gas is high enough. There's cuts that can be made elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay, whoever's next online, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Anastasia. I live in the Valley, and you know, we all have a story. First of all, I want to say thank you for your service, and I think we all should talk to each other with respect regardless of who we are. You know, we all have a story. I'm a struggling mother. I went through a lot, but I'm glad to live in the borough. And I just want to say, even though higher taxes might be hard, you know, I can cut my own budget to accommodate that. I have lived and seen places where roads are not maintained, where government does take a lot of money from the people and don't do the work. And I am pretty sure this is not that. Our roads, I'm happy. And I'm sure there are ways to make things better for everyone. But I just wanted to say that I can see the work that's done, and I do trust the government. Thank you.
Thank you. That all, everybody that's online? Okay. One last chance for anybody here that hasn't testified yet that would like to address the assembly. Okay, I don't see anybody. I'm getting the high sign from a few people, so I think we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break, so we'll come back at 8:40. Thank you. Okay, if I can have the assembly return to their seats, please. So we. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And we are to the public hearings. And Madam Clerk, would you read into the record, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 25-081, an ordinance enacting a tax cap under MSB 3.04.077 and establishing an area-wide real property tax cap of 10 mills and a non-area-wide tax cap of 0.55 mills. This is sponsored by Assemblymember Sumner, Faunov, and Bernier.
I understand there's not going to be a staff report, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And let's see, do we have, we do not have a sign-up sheet, I guess. So anyone is welcome to address the assembly on ordinance 25-081. Okay, I don't see anybody. Oh, come on, just come up. Okay, yeah, turn, there you go, sir.
Hello again, Michael Bowles. For the record, thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, and Assembly members. So I saw nobody else, so I'll go ahead and take this opportunity to please again ask the Assembly to take up an amendment adding a full exemption of property tax payments or property taxes for members of the or residents of the Matsu Borough that are 65 years or older. So senior citizens that are 65 years or older, please add an amendment exempting them fully, not just partially. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on ordinance 25 dash? Yes, hi, Esther.
My name is Esther Huddleston, Huddleston. I disagree about a full exemption on 65 and older. It should go to the voters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on this ordinance? Okay, do we have anybody online? We do not have anybody online. Okay. Ready? So I'll close the public hearing, and who's the first sponsor? Is that the person that has?
Assemblymember Sumner.
Okay, Assemblymember Sumner, if you'd like to move, and then we'll go from there.
I move ordinance 25-081.
Okay, would you care to speak to it?
I would. I wish that more people had stuck around. You know, we do have to talk. We do have to talk about all the legislation that comes before us, whether or not any one of us would have passed that fuel tax or not. You know, we still have to talk about it. We still have to try and make it the best version that it would be in case it does pass. I'd like to just point out that this is our attempt. And I think I would have had more sponsors, maybe all 7, if we could have, if the Open Meetings Act wouldn't have been a violation. But I had to pick 2 sponsors. But this is the Assembly's attempt to limit the growth of government. We're saying, hey, here's a cap, and we cannot exceed that with tax receipts. We will not let the administration budget higher than this. It would take, previously, if you don't have a tax cap, the administration could budget whatever they wanted, and then it would take 4 votes to override it. I'm not saying that they would. This way it would take 4 votes to increase the amount that we spend. So, yeah.
Further discussion by the Assembly? Oh, yes, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If it was up to me, I would like to completely get rid of property taxes. I'm not a fan of property taxes at all. But this is a great start. The gentleman that was up here speaking earlier about getting rid of the senior citizen exemption completely, I think you need to take a look at the math a little bit, because it would raise everybody else's property taxes up so high that it would have a very negative effect on people that are not seniors at this time. But anyways, I think that the 10 mils is a great start, and I'm supportive of this ordinance. Thank you.
Further discussion by the Assembly? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to make an amendment. I would like to lower the tax cap down to 9.5.
9.5, okay. There is a primary amendment to lower it to 9.5. Discussion by this, did you want to address it? Or you just want it?
I want it.
Okay, all right.
I just want to chime in because I should have mentioned it before. If you look at section E of the ordinance, any future tax or increase in other taxes would also further offset the property tax mill rate by the commiserate amount.
Okay. Further discussion on the primary amendment to lower, Assemblyperson McKee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Right. No problem. Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
Can I ask how that would work in practice? So if we adopted a 2% sales tax, can you give me an example of how that would work?
I can't, but I think the administration could, but I mean, it reads unless approved by voters. So a sales tax to be approved by voters. So I guess this clause wouldn't apply, but unless approved by voters, any new area-wide or non-area-wide tax or increase in the rate of an existing tax not addressed in subsections A through D of this section shall result in proportional reduction in the maximum mill rate based upon the then existing value of a mill.
Madam Mayor.
Yes,
Follow
go
up.
ahead.
So if we had some tax that raised $15 million, which is about a mill in area-wide taxes, you're saying we would lower the area-wide mill rate by a mill to balance those out? Am I getting it right?
If we pass this ordinance, the way it reads is if we had what was the new tax example?
So if we had a tax that brought in 15 million, which is equivalent to what about 1 mill brings out in?
Oh, unless it was voter approved, it would restrict the administration from preparing a budget that exceeded that mill rate with the reduction included.
So if we said the cap is 10, then the mill rate could be no more than 9 in that example?
I mean, that's my interpretation, yes.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion by the, yes, Assemblyperson Paul.
To amendment, is there a reason why you also didn't propose to slightly go down on the 0.55 the non-area wide mill and maybe possibly go to 0.5? And that's too around.
I was leaving that one for you, Dimitri.
Okay, I'd like to make a secondary amendment and to non-area wide lower it to 0.5, not 0.55. So replace that number.
Okay, so now the discussion will be on the secondary amendment. Yes, Assemblyperson.
Mr. Manager, could you refresh me? Where are we at on the non-area wide mill rate right now?
I think through the mayor, I think area wide we're at 8.378 or 48, and then non-area wide 0.384, 0.387, somewhere in that range.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this is still way below, way above what we currently are. So that means we didn't cut it far enough or leave it at this right now. I guess with the discussion with Max, I know we briefly talked about that. We'll make this amendment. So does that almost incentivize the budget preparation right at the maximum of it, Or I guess how does that will take in real life? Maybe more a question to Mr. Brown on this, because departments will say, well, no, we still have this much cushion. I don't want to give the reason to also, we'll put the cap, but cap is not at where we currently at, but significantly higher, I guess. And so that's my question to, I guess, so that with this, we don't incentivize bigger prepared budget.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor, to Mr. Fanoff, no, I don't believe it does that at all. This tax cap sunset, what, a couple years ago? So there actually hasn't been a tax cap in place for the last year or two. So I would argue, no, it hasn't incentivized the
People to go
budget
to
preparation for a higher mill rate. Mill rate's gone down consistently for the past 4 or 5 years, 6 years. So we prepare the budget based on our needs and what we think is going to be palatable to you, because you're going to approve it every year regardless of what the tax cap is set at. So I don't think it incentivizes us to prepare a higher budget if the tax cap is above the current mill rate.
Okay, further discussion? Yes, Deputy Mayor?
I just thank you, Mike, for all your hard work. But, you know, 4 or 5 years down the line with a different assembly and stuff like that, you know, tables might be flip-flopped where they do want a higher mill rate and stuff like that. So I think what you just proposed would be a good start.
Okay, so the secondary amendment is to take it to 0.45 for non-area wide. Are you ready? Is there any objection to that?
No, Madam Mayor, it was by 0.5, so it's
0.5?
No. Instead of 0.55 to be at 0.5 even.
Oh, okay, because the clerk and I both.
Not
said
4.5.
0.45, yeah.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, that's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I did too. Yeah, so, okay, is there objection to that motion? Okay, hearing no objection, then the secondary amendment has passed. Now we're back to the primary amendment, which took it from 10 to 9.5. Is there objection to that? Oh, I'm
Just a
sorry.
comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to support this. I think we have, like the manager noted, consistently lowered the mill rate, so that's a reflection of the people who elected us, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have a cap there that kind of kicks in and makes you look at it. You know, I think we should try to diversify away from property taxes no matter what the cap is.
Is there any objection to the primary motion to take it to 9.5? Okay, seeing no objection, then the primary amendment passes. So now you have before you the ordinance 25-081 as amended. Further discussion or further amendments? Is there any objection to ordinance 25-081? Hearing no objection, then the ordinance passes. All righty, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 2508-082, an ordinance naming the Story Walk Pathway at Sutton Library in honor of Nancy Bertels. This is sponsored by Assemblymember Hale, and if they have a caller on the line and you'd like to speak, please press *3.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to address ordinance 25-082? Yes,
Good evening, Mayor, Assembly members. My name is Michelle Heun, Heun. I just wanted to say I have been up to, I have filed a letter of intent to run for District 1. And I just want to say I have been to Sutton a number of times. And I observed this pathway under construction in its raw form. I went back 2 more times until I was able to see the completion of the pathway. And I can tell you that it is 100% supported by that community up there. And you can walk from the library to the playground. And there is a story that the children and adults, I read the story, can read along the pathway. And it's not only exciting, but they also post that they're going to put a new story in. So I just want you to know that it is an incredible project. And naming it in honor of this woman, she's very well respected up there. Thanks.
thank you. Anyone else would like to address this ordinance? Do we have anybody in line? We do not. Okay. Go ahead and close the public hearing. Assemblyperson Hale, would you like to make the motion, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance 25-082, and if I could speak to it briefly.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Mrs. Bertels has been a driving force behind trying to get this pathway between the library and the mining museum park type area down there next to the highway. She's also been a driving force behind many improvements at the library. She was intimately involved in the Friends of the Sutton Library for a long time. She's been a driving force in Sutton for, probably since before I could buy beer. And so this is really a good recognition of the contributions she's made to that community, and I hope that everybody supports it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion by the assembly? Is there any objection? Okay, seeing and hearing none, then ordinance 25-082 has passed. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 25-084, an ordinance adopting MSB 3.15.037E to allow for prorated senior and disabled veteran residential real property tax exemption when a qualifying individual moves their permanent residence mid-year, and submitting the question to the voters. And if you're on the phone and would like to speak, press *3. This is sponsored by Assemblymember Gamble.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on 25-084. We do have a sign-up sheet. Mike, yep, you're on the sign-up sheet. You want to come first?
Yes, Michael Bowles. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, and members of the Assembly. And I actually agree with, I think Esther was her name. That'd be a great idea to put my proposed amendment onto a vote. I'm all for we the people voting on everything. I'd like to address the comment from Assemblyman Gamble. He stated that if there was an exemption to lower property taxes to 0 for senior residents that are 65 years or older, that somehow it would raise the mill for everybody else out in the borough. That makes no sense. It wouldn't automatically raise the mill. The mill would stay the same. So the borough would collect the same amount of money from everybody else that's 64 on down. So that statement, in my opinion, is moot. So please, members of the Assembly, again, consider submitting an amendment exempting members of or residents out in our borough that are property owners 65 years or older from having to pay property taxes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then Ken, but looks like he is left. So is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address this ordinance? Do we have anybody online? We do not. Okay, we will go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance 25-084. Assemblyperson Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move ordinance 25-084 and like to speak to it.
Did you want to say anything about it?
I do. Thank you. Yeah, and the caller earlier, that was unexpected. That's not the person who contacted me about this issue, but it was nice to hear somebody else that had encountered the same issue. I had a constituent who had sold his house in the Butte in February and moved to KGB, and was surprised to find out after he moved that his senior citizen exemption didn't follow him as he moved, that he actually could reapply, but he wouldn't enjoy that same savings until January 1st of the following year. And so he brought this to my attention, and that's when I went to the attorney. We crafted this, and the attorney can speak to the specifics of why it has to go to a vote, but it has to do with state statute, and that's why it has to go to the voters to be approved. But I think it's appropriate that when a senior or disabled veteran sells their property, regardless of what time of the year it happens, that they can immediately reapply for their exemption, and it should take effect immediately. Thank you.
Further discussion by the, yes, Deputy Mayor.
So will this allow it to follow the veteran or the just senior? Then, like you were saying, just if you sell your house in the Butte and you go to KGB, that gets transferred over? Is there any downtime, basically?
My understanding of the way the ordinance is written, if it was approved by the voters, is it would take effect immediately. If they sold their house on the 22nd and they moved into their, or bought their new one on the 23rd, it would start on the 23rd. And Mr. Ashman-Brenner, you can.
Okay, Mr. Attorney?
John Ashman, or Deputy Borough Attorney. I think that's accurate. I did hear a mention about moving in. That is part of it, because you would have to purchase and occupy. I believe Assemblymember Gamble mentioned that. That's an important part of the senior citizen exemption, that it's more than just purchasing property. You need to occupy it. Thank you.
Yeah, the fact that it has to be their principal residence still applies, right? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Further discussion? Yeah.
Mr. Gable, so you said that there was no path for us to make that change without going to the ballot. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, but I defer to the attorney.
That's correct.
Okay, because they would think that's all kind of small, kind of imperfection in the system that should be just fairly easier. But if it's, I mean, Lonnie's not going to be happy having to do borough-wide proposition now, because and now all districts will have to have something on the ballot. But if that's the makes this thing works out, then I'll support that. Yeah.
Further discussion, Assemblyperson Hours.
Just a question for administration, actually two questions. So is that difficult in any way to administer for the folks that would fall into this, which I assume wouldn't be that many? And then what happens to the property, like if the senior property is purchased by a non-senior? Do they still get the tax-free for a year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Never thought about that.
That's my understanding, that the people that purchase the house would enjoy that tax savings for the rest of the year, and then that would go back to normal for them.
Perk of buying from a senior.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yes.
my question was, just from an administration standpoint, if that's any sort of large administrative burden to handle these cases or pose any other difficulties.
Through the mayor to Assembly Member Nowers, Cheyenne Handel, Finance Director. Since we don't know the volume of those kind of properties that are selling, I can't give you an answer, but it shouldn't be hard to administer it, because they would have to come in and apply for it and let us know that they have a senior exemption here. They would need to move it to the new property.
Okay, and then it's just a simple matter of correcting the tax record or updating it. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, yes,
Yeah, just one last point. And the other thing was, the person who contacted me, they had no idea that this was going to happen to them until after they had sold their house and purchased the new one. And I don't know how we address that, how we educate, seniors or disabled veterans. When you sell your house, you need to, reapply. They didn't know that this was going to happen to them, and it put a financial burden on them when they found out that their taxes were going to go up until the following January.
Assemblyperson Sumner.
I mean, let them know could be as simple as just notifying the title companies of this change, who would, when there's a closing, a title company would notify the senior.
Mm-hmm. My question is regarding mid-year. So if, say, somebody buys, so it's January 1st now, or December 31st, right? So if they buy February 1st, is that considered mid-year?
To the mayor, Cheyenne Handel, Finance Director. So what we would do is, it says we prorate it. So
Okay.
their new home would get 11 months of exemption, the old home is exempted for the full year.
Okay, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, and like you said, we don't have any idea what the financial consequences of this is.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Yep.
Question.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry.
So, okay, say if they moved in February, sold their house, moved into the new house in February, so they're getting exemption on the old house for 1 complete year, and then new 11 months exemption on their new home. Now, if that new buyer of the old home, you're saying they're getting the exemption, is that set in stone, or do you?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Bernier, we look at the tax status of the home on January 1st. So if the tax status is senior exempt, that home is exempted for the full year. And that's set in state statute. This new exemption that you're doing is prorating for the new buyer going forward, and that's why there's a requirement for it to be voted on.
I was just seeing if we could collect taxes on the sold home for.
Assemblyperson Paula?
So that kind of answered my question. So in as it sits now, that exemption goes through the whole year. So we're not actually changing that. So we're not giving changing to give somebody a freebie. That's already in place. It's just to give the person that moved, which I don't know. There's going to be a large quantity of it, but yeah, I still support that. Yeah.
Yes, Assemblyperson. Yeah.
Cheyenne, I mean, do you have any idea about how many times this happens a year? It can't be that often, huh?
I truthfully don't have any idea how many times this happens during the year. Tonight, other than the one you brought forward and the one we heard on the phone tonight,
That's it.
that's it. I can't imagine there will be a lot, but we will find out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just one comment, just the whole senior disabled veteran issue, I think it's worth noting for people who might be interested in this, that there's no means testing for it. It's just whether you're a senior or a disabled veteran. And the last time I looked at the figures, the amount that would have been raised if there wasn't the exemption was equivalent to a mill. So that means everybody else, in terms of generating the same amount of revenue, it has to come from somewhere. So the property tax rate, like everybody else is carrying the burden, if you want to call it burden, carrying the, making up that difference. So for the average homeowner, it's probably about like in the range of $300 a year extra for the exemption. And, we've decided as a choice, the community voted on it, that they wanted exemption and they wanted it tied to inflation. So we have a really growing senior population, and there are costs to that, I guess. And if anybody's interested in that, that's kind of the last time I looked at it that was the numbers.
Further discussion? Is there objection to passing ordinance 25-084? Okay, hearing no objection, then the ordinance has passed. Okay, Madam, audience participation? Is that where we are, or do we have an? Yeah. Okay, we are to audience participation now, and again, we do have a sign-up sheet. Let's see, Marty? Is Marty still here? I don't see him. So I think that takes care of everybody, because everybody else testified earlier, except for Marty Van Deesen. I don't see Marty here. He must have left. So it's if you testified under the earlier audience participation, then you've used up your one time for the evening. But if you haven't testified, okay, Esther?
Good evening. My name's Esther Huddleston, and I'm a little concerned about the lady that did the presentation for the Dushka. Our state has done a poor job managing our fisheries. The Board of Fisheries is all commercial fishermen. We have no balance. And we essentially need a new state law where we have equal balance. We have someone representing subsistent users, which is very important to rural communities. Somebody represents sports fisheries and charter boats. We have other countries coming into our waters with trawlers and taking our fish. That needs to be taken care of. We also we need more fisheries. If you go to Clam Gulch, to Custatan, you see rows and rows and rows of set netters. How can the fish make it up our streams? And I know the commercial fishermen need to make a living, but we need a balance so we can self-sustain. It's not all environmental, and I hope that you do not change borough land and restrict it over the environmental part, because it's more than just the water temperatures, it's poor management on our state. And I think we need to invest in more fisheries so commercial fishermen can still make a living and sports fishermen can still receive enough fish for their families and also subsistence. And a lot of Alaskans pay a lot of money for these charter boats, and they get cut down. So they keep bringing down the size of limit of the length of the halibut. And it rips off Alaskans. You pay a lot of money and you get 2 fish, and one has to be under a certain number of inches, and then you get 1 large one. And it's just, I feel like our state needs to do a better job finding a balance. And also, I already mentioned several times, more fisheries, but please do not place more restrictions on borough land, because we have so many restrictions already in the state of Alaska, and we're losing land to be able to recreate. I mean, we have over 200 million acres locked up in federal lands, and that doesn't include land refuge. It doesn't include places like the Palmer Flats, and it's just a lot of land lockup. We don't need any more. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on any subject? Yeah. Hi.
Thank you. I'm John Vendeska. I see the last thing on the agenda is the ordinance 25097, the large lot thing. I'm here in support of that. And that is the reason that came about is a real outrage in our area where a subdivider was subdividing 1 acre lots into 3, and they weren't even suitable for 1 acre lots. And so a bunch of people in our area were just upset about it, but the plating just rubber stamped it through. And in several other areas in our area want to keep the 5 acre lots. And that's what the attempt of this is. So I hope you guys support this with the plating department. I guess it's going to be referred on to that. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anyone else that would like to address? Okay, do we have anybody online, sir? No? Okay, one last chance. Okay. I'll close audience participation then, and now we are consent agenda. Madam Clerk. I'm sorry? Oh, sure. Okay. Does anybody, there was one item that was pulled earlier. Does anybody else have any other item to pull? Okay, if not, then we'll go ahead and the clerk will read the items that have not been pulled, and then we'll come to Assemblyperson McKee for her motion. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution 25-074, a resolution supporting the transportation priorities identified in the 2023 Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. AM 25-087, approval of utility location costs of $114,814.04 to Matanuska Telecom Association for the Crimson View, Vermilion Drive, Fallow Drive, and Ochre Drive improvements for the South Colony Road Service Area Improvement Project, and to extend the completion date to July 15th, 2026. AM 25-088, awarded bid number 25-189B to K&H Civil Constructors and the contract amount of $1,049 $261.50 for Snowcrest Drive and Trapline Drive improvements. AM 25-089, award of bid number 26005B to Dirtworks Inc. and the contract amount of $386,000, $941.30 for South Butte Drive road improvements. AM 25-090, award of bid 25179B to South Central Construction Inc. and the contract amount of $1,487,654.50 to construct the cell 4 expansion at the central landfill. AM 25091, purchase of sodium chloride from Northern Gravel and Trucking LLC in the amount of $425,750. AM 25093, awarded bid number 26010B to JRF Enterprises LLC in the contract amount of $385,678.34 for Birch Creek at Mastodon Road Fish Passage improvements. AM 25-094, awarded bid number 26-011B to Western Construction and Equipment LLC in the contract amount of $568,255 for Esca Street, Granite Street, Utah Street, and Grand Avenue improvements. AM 25-096, authorizing a memorandum of agreement with the Alaska State Department of Transportation and Public Facilities regarding maintenance and match requirements for Palmer Fishhook Separated Pathway, Trunk Road to Edgerton Parks Road. AM 25-097, authorizing the memorandum of agreements with the Alaska State Department of Transportation and Public Facilities regarding maintenance and match requirements for Selden Road reconstruction, Wasilla Fishhook Road to Lucille Street and Inner and Outer Springer Loop Separated Pathway. AM 25-099, award of bid number, 26-018B to Ficklin Construction LLC and the contract amount of $115,612 for Pioneer Peak Trailhead Parking Expansion. AM 25101, award of bid number 26006B to Crawley Fuels LLC for an estimated annual contract amount of $300,000 to furnish and deliver heating oil and fuels.
Deputy Mayor.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Discussion, any concerns from the assembly? Okay, hearing none, then the consent agenda has been approved. And now Assemblyperson McKee, if you will make a motion to, I'm sorry?
I need to read it into the record.
Oh, you want to read it into, okay.
AM
Sorry, thank you.
25-100, award of contract number. AM 25-100, award of contract number 26-017C to Wolf Architecture in the contract amount of $306,968 to provide construction admin services for American Charter Academy School construction, and that was pulled by Assemblymember McKee.
Thank you. Assemblyperson McKee, would you like to move the AM and then discuss?
I move AM 25-100.
Okay, go ahead.
I just had a question on this. When we put out the bonds for the charter schools, are this kind of advice is not included in that? This is extra too, or figured in, or what?
Go ahead.
Through the mayor to Ms. McKee, it's factored into the project estimates when those packages are brought forward.
Okay.
But because of the way we do our procurement, they go out as separate bids or proposals, and then they come forward to the assembly when they exceed $100,000 in value.
Okay. All right. I got it. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on AM 25-100? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, then it has been approved. Now, Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, your first item of business under unfinished business is ordinance 25-054, an ordinance adopting MSB 15.24.030B48, Bogard Selden Corridor Access Management Plan, and your main motion is pending.
Okay. We've already had public hearing and a few amendments, so it has before you now to accept it as amended or make further amendments. Assemblyperson Fama, go ahead.
This is, I think, the part where we were gonna have the final map of the things of what we've changed to take a one more look at it, and I think we got overshadowed by the other. So, Alex, I don't know if you have anything for us, but I would like to hear an update if there's any other changes or maybe it's something else that we missed that need to be corrected before we make any final decision on this. If that's okay.
Wasn't attached in the packet? I think it was attached in the packet, but go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. To Assembly Member Fonov, all the changes were incorporated into the document, both the maps as well as the narrative. They are included in an updated version in the informational memorandum. They also went out in the manager's weekly post, I think, a couple of weeks ago, July 23rd.
But you didn't print any paper copies, correct?
I didn't do any specific additional printing.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion on ordinance 25-054. Any further amendments? Is there any objection to ordinance 25-054? Okay, seeing and hearing none, then the ordinance has passed. We already moved the other ordinance, and now we have before us the resolution, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution 25-068, a resolution directing the borough manager to prepare future budgets utilizing the fuel excise tax revenue to reduce the area-wide mill rate and create a proportional increase in the 16 road service area mill rates and allocate an amount equal to 70% of the excise tax revenues to a capital project for voter-approved transportation projects. And this is sponsored by Assemblymember Sumner, and your main motion is on the floor.
Okay. Assemblyperson Sumner, you have
Actually,
comment?
I probably need some help with this. I mean, I think that this resolution doesn't make much sense as what is being proposed. You know, it has been transmuted and then added to the what's going to be put on the ballot. So, should we just delete this or vote it down?
Postpone indefinitely.
Well, I think that it's, you know, as it's written, it's confusing. It's confusing to the public because it's probably not what would be, you know, it was going to be changed with amendments anyway.
With your main motion on the floor, you could just vote it down.
I mean, I would just ask that we vote it down and we bring back a different resolution that is much more clear for the public.
Okay. Is that a motion, or did you want to make the motion, sir?
Madam Mayor, they don't have to make a new motion. They could just vote the main motion down.
Okay. Yeah, Assemblyperson Hours.
I was thinking we could amend it and continue it, but I think voting it down is fine because that language that is included in the ballot proposition, so I think vote it down.
So I understand there is objection of some kind, right? Well, objection to passing it, yes. Yeah, because the motion is always plus, yeah. Alrighty, so if everybody ready to vote?
You can just ask it. Oh, never mind. I forgot what we're doing. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm tired.
Yeah, okay.
If I can get all the members in the room to vote. Assemblymember Hale,
No.
Madam Mayor, it failed with Assemblymember McKee in support.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it's voted down, so.
Yeah, it's already voted down, so, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for the record, he wants.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is vetoes, and there are no vetoes. Madam Clerk, we're ready for our new business.
Excuse me. For a public hearing on August 19th, we have ordinance serial number 25-079, ordinance serial number 25-083 with accompanying resolution 25069, ordinance 25-086, ordinance 25-087, and accompanying resolution 25075. And I can't grab a hold of paper to turn it. Ordinance serial number 25-088 with accompanying resolution 25-076.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearing for August 19th, 2025.
Okay. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, then the legislation has been introduced. Deputy Mayor.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendation as follows. Animal Care and Regulation Board, removal of Destiny O'Daniel. Enhanced 911 Advisory Board, resignation of Dwayne Shelton and Lucas Zipski. Sorry. Planning Commission, resignation of Wilford Fernandez. Connect RSA number 17, John Job, John
Can you help him
Seismic.
out there?
Seismic?
Assemblyperson Gamble?
I'll go help.
What is it, sir?
Simic, SC.
Sizik? Doesn't even have an M in it, that's why we're
Oh,
asking. Oh, the one above
Size-
it. Yeah, Simic.
Okay.
Sorry.
And Joe Zizik. Sorry, guys. Trapper Creek, RSA number 30, resignation of Becky Badillo.
Is there any discussion on the vacancy report? Is there any objection? Okay, hearing no objection, the vacancy report is approved. We do not have any other new business. Madam Clerk, would you read the referrals?
Your first referral is ordinance serial 25-089, ordinance amending MSB 1717 Denali State Park Special Land Use District by eliminating a provision that allows the special use boundary district to change automatically when the boundary of Denali State Park changes.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I move to refer ordinance number 25-089 and ordinance 25-090 to the Planning Commission for 90 days.
I jumped the gun. The clerk had not introduced the ordinance 25.
Do you want to withdraw his
Zero
motion and
nine.
start over?
Yeah, so withdraw. My, yeah, my fault. I
Re-
called on you too soon. Sorry.
Okay, we already read 25089 into the record. The other ordinance for referral is ordinance 25090, an ordinance adopting MSB 1777 large lot district.
Okay, now Deputy Mayor.
I move to refer ordinance number 25-089 and 25-090 to the Planning Commission for 90 days.
Okay, thank you. Is there any objection, comments, discussion on the referrals? Okay, then the referrals have been adopted. There are no reconsiderations, so we're now to, I'm sorry?
Potentially reconsideration. I need to clear something. We just passed the Bogart corridor. I was just looking through it, and there's amendment that is made for one road that passed. It was Old Spa Loop, so there isn't. It's still a cul-de-sac there, and there isn't a new path out of there. So they're just blocked completely. I don't know if I need to make the reconsideration to. If it's a technical mistake or something, but I just noticed and I want to make that correction if needed right away or so. Alex, if whatever procedure you want me to follow, it's just I think there is a mistake that's made, so I want to make that correction. So if we look, it's a segment E. If you look at pages on the bottom. It is, let's see, let me zoom out 1 second. I'll get that. Figure 7, page 48, figure 7. So right
Is this
in
an
the,
amendment you made? Is it?
it is amendment that was made and passed, I believe, because it had overwhelming support of the old squat loop. So basically on this drawing, it's still a cul-de-sac and there is no new road to connecting somewhere else. So I want, yeah, so I'm pretty sure we left that as is, if I remember. If not, please fill it in. If not, then why is there no alternative route here, like a purple little line?
Does the assembly have any concerns regarding having the staff come and address this concern? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on that map, you will see, it's a little bit difficult to see, but there's a frontage road across that connects Old Squaw Loop east to Snow Goose Drive, and I believe that is what was voted on and approved by the assembly.
Are you talking about little like dot kind of lines that go?
Yeah, so there's a yellow line just north of the corridor and that connects those two roads.
Okay. Well, it's not on the IM one, so I think you're looking at a live report. Okay. If Max is showing me the one that does have that, but the one in IM report, that's the one you said that it. Well, yeah, can zoom in as close as. Okay, thank you. In that case, yes. So I guess it is in there. I did not see it until you zoom in, like really, really zoom in. Otherwise, it just doesn't show up. So with that said, then I have, there's no concern there.
So you taken away your objection then to the passing of that?
No, I withdraw potential reconsideration because it is there. We had to zoom in really, really close to see that line in there. And when I was looking at the standard size, I was not able to see it until you zoom in like 200%. So we're not doing anything on it.
Okay, right, all right, good, alrighty. So we are to the point for parting comments. Assemblyperson Fanoff, parting comments, sir?
No, thank you.
Okay, Assemblyperson Gamble, parting comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I want to thank everybody who came out tonight to speak on the gas tax. And as I stated before, I'm not a big fan of property taxes at all, and I would like to find a way to diversify how government funds itself. And so over the next several weeks, in fact, I'm glad that we kind of put the gas tax off until the November vote to give me some time to look at some alternatives to funding government. And I will be spending the next several weeks or months trying to get some information through the administration to bring forward, hopefully, some alternatives to funding government other than property taxes. We have got to get off the property tax hamster wheel and figure out a better way to fund government that's fair to everybody. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Sumner, parting comments?
Mr. Gamble, I couldn't agree more. I'd like to get looped in on that if the administration would keep you informed of how that goes. I'd also like to say that there, I was called out by a member of the public tonight. I think for the record, if you guys remember, I did try and cut some stuff from the budget. Some of it didn't go so well, but I'll try harder next time. I promise. It was my first budget cycle. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, parting comments?
Thank you for having us, Stella and I.
Mr. Manager, parting comments?
I'll be brief, Madam Mayor. If the Assembly has thoughts on what kind of information we provide to the public regarding that, this whole intent with this excise tax was to get a conversation started about alternative revenues and frankly, to really evaluate how we're managing debt. And so we still have time to talk about that because the problem's still there. And I can totally appreciate why folks might not like the fuel excise tax, but that doesn't make the debt problem go away. And so I'm open to whatever the Assembly wants that to look like. I'm perfectly comfortable going out and setting up town halls in 4 or 5 different places just to provide information and have dialogue. We can certainly advertise that and whatnot, but what we have to figure out is how do we manage a quorum if the Assembly wants to participate. So that's where I will need some help. If you're just like, tell us what your plan is, give us a schedule and locations, I will do that, and then we'll chart out. And then if it happens to be in your district, you can show up. If it's not, you don't, then we won't have a quorum problem. However you want to do that. I'm happy to do that work. over the next 2 months. So we can figure that out. But if you have specific thoughts or things you want done in a specific way, I would welcome that input as soon as possible so we can figure out what that looks like. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Nowers.
Yeah,
parting
thank you.
comments?
Telling Assemblymember Sumner I'm not inviting any of my brothers to come to assembly meetings. I really appreciate everybody coming out, and we do listen. It's very frustrating to, the way the format is we can't like respond in time to you. Like we could respond after the meeting, but meetings will spiral out of control if you they could go on forever if everybody, like this many people in the room trying to have a conversation. So we're listening, I think there were a lot of good comments tonight. I think with my fellow assembly members, we're trying to figure this out. I mean, the population of the borough has grown from 60,000 in 2000 to we're over 110,000 now. That doesn't come without costs for the roads, for fire, for ambulance. So how you pay for that is a challenge, and how you keep the budget in check. And I know for District 2, the average property owner, the increase has been 3% a year. I would love it to be 0, but I think 3% is not bad given the rampant inflation that's been out there. So a couple other things I just heard tonight. Our schools in the Valley are not last. I just want to say that on the record. We are, when you look at the test scores, we are average with the country. So I don't want people to confuse what's happening statewide with the performance of the borough schools. And then I do not believe the SPCA is willing to take over animal control. I have not, as far as I know, that is not the case. And if people want to look at where we're spending our money, there is an online checkbook. You can look at where the money is going. There is a budget book that comes out every year. And then if you have specific questions about projects, you can ask the borough, you can ask your assembly member, and I'd be happy to dig into the budget book with you. So again, appreciate everybody coming out. I am looking forward to the advisory vote on it and giving people in the Valley a chance to voice their vote up or down. And I can guarantee you, if it's a no vote majority, this is going nowhere. We're going back to the drawing board. So it's an advisory vote, but it's almost like an actual vote, in my mind, at least. It's, it'll be the will of the voters, and I'll follow that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, parting comments?
Okay. Thank you, Mike. On the town hall, I'll definitely be in contact with you. Several in my district for sure, as big as it is. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And yeah, it's definitely when you have some people up there and they're wanting you to respond to them. Well, anybody? And you have to sit here with lockjaw just tight because you want to say something, but it's just the rules. So, but other than that, thank you everyone for coming out. And I want to thank, dear Lord, we praise your holy name. We thank you for your love, your grace. Please bless our military, our first responders, our veterans. Please guide our leadership, Lord. May they do your will. Please help our Valley residents, the people in the state, the people in our country. Please help the brokenhearted, the addicted, the sick. Heal us all, Lord. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Parting comments, Assemblyperson McKee?
It's just a couple. I've heard the word, everybody knows what Doge means. How difficult would it be to do an audit of the borough? When I worked at the university in Fairbanks, they had a job analyst go through and then heads rolled, and because some of the jobs were, just superfluous. How difficult is it, and how expensive is it to get something like that where you actually do look at what we are doing in the borough?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Ms. McKee, we do an audit, third-party audit every year.
Do you?
And have for years.
For the positions?
And so, now, remember, it's basically looking at your accounting practices to make sure that you're following the management controls and spending in accordance with your policy, which is your policy. That's what the audit does. Now, if you want to talk about why we spend money on certain things, an audit's not going to do that for you. That's really where we spend time during the budget process talking about what are your priorities and how do you want to choose to resource them. So that, I mean, that's the thing. I hear a lot of, the DOE stuff. And if you remember, during the budget presentation on April 9th, I specifically talked about a number of efficiencies that we were working on. There's a slide online that talks about government efficiencies and things that we specifically targeted this fiscal year. So, we're not tone deaf to the fact that this conversation's happening federally, and I spoke to that. But people don't tune into the budget process. They don't realize the work that's being put into it. And so it's easy to sit back and wonder what you're doing or criticize it. But we talked about a number. I mean, one of them, I'll just pull one off the top, was we outsourced ambulance billing because we found a more cost-effective way to do it and provide a better service to residents, right? And so we reduced an FTE. So this idea that we never reduce, I suppose that's generally true, but that's not always true. And so we reduced an FTE, we repurposed a couple positions, and we outsourced the service to a contract. So, I mean, that was just one example. I can go get the slide. I can send it to you again. It's online, because we did the presentation here and it was live streamed. So, I mean, we're trying to be as transparent about this as we can. And I can appreciate where people are overwhelmed with information and it's difficult to keep track. I don't like following government either. I just want to go live my life. And I appreciate that. I hope people do that. But it's not that we're not making the information available. It's not that we aren't doing these audits. It's not that we aren't making these things available, but I can't figure out, I can't tell people what to pay attention to and consume. And so I'm happy to talk to people individually, like Ms. Schmidt that came up here tonight and talked about the emails. I think we exchanged 8 or 9 emails over the past couple of weeks. The mayor was on those. She had questions, I would answer the question. We go back, we welcome the dialogue. I'm not off put by that at all. And if people want to engage, anybody that was here tonight, want to talk some more about, what we're doing, why we're doing, what the concerns are when we look ahead. We're just trying to be proactive. We're not trying to be like Anchorage. All right. We're trying to look at things in advance and go, and we can wait till it's a crisis. It's really easy to put your head in the sand, or you can try to figure out how do you get there before the crisis or the issue shows up. That's what this is about. We're not in crisis mode right now. That's why we can have these conversations without freaking out. But I am concerned about the state of Alaska and some of the things that they're doing. We're about to bring legislation forward to this body that's going to pull $4.7 million out of a reserve to cover school bond debt reimbursement that the state of Alaska shorted us on this fiscal year. That absolutely is happening. And guess where that $4.7 million came from? Area-wide property taxes. Okay, and that's this year. I have no idea what they'll do next year, and they don't know either. And so that's something we have to be prepared for, because if we didn't plan for that a couple of years ago, we would have been in a crisis, because you already adopted a budget, tax bills went out, and we would be $4.7 million in the hole. That is not an easy thing to fix. And again, that's just 1 year. And again, it goes back to the conversation about we probably ought to give some thought to how we manage debt. We didn't want to muddy the waters with the fuel tax by throwing another 4.7, because then it feels like we're almost setting it up like, oh, you have to pass this new tax. So we've waited on the legislation till you all had a chance to consider this, and Cheyenne has the legislation drafted to bring it forward. Fortunately, you all had the forethought to plan for this when we brought you a solution a few years ago. We'll just budget differently next year now that we know the state is even less reliable than they were last year. And that was absolutely, I'm just going to say it because I want to be clear, that was absolutely the state legislature. Okay, the governor budgeted for it and it got reduced. And so that was absolutely on the state legislature, just to be clear. And I don't know what that's going to look like next year, but it doesn't feel like I want to put a whole lot of faith in the fact that they're going to come through and honor those obligations. Well, guess what? That means we're going to have to, because if they do that again, they just make it our problem, whether we want it or not. So that's just the reality of some of these things. And I want to make sure we're having those conversations so we don't wait till it's a crisis and go, oh, sorry, we didn't see that coming. When with debt, it's very predictable.
Yeah.
And to remind folks, it's voter approved. Like, these aren't things that you put in place. These are ballot propositions that voters approved to go do work. And so I can appreciate where some folks are like, I don't want to do that work, but 2/3 of the people on these transportation ballots said, go do the work. And about 62%, if I remember correctly, on the charter or the education bond said, go build these 3 schools. So we're just trying to figure out how to manage that. I'm sorry. You got me up on my state soapbox, Mayor. Get me fired up.
That's all right.
I just like to also add, they're sacred cows. Everybody's got them. And every year when the budget comes around and we continue to vote a huge portion of our budget to the school district. And I agree with what you're saying, Stephanie, but that it still doesn't solve the problem because, as Tim Hale said, and I've quoted him before, the cream will always rise to the top. So when we're talking about cutting teachers and such like that, rather than cutting an administration that I think is hugely bloated, we could cut there. Turn me loose, dude. I'm pretty sure I could find $5 million. But I do this every year, I protest the vote, and everybody comes to say, but it's for the children. I know it, dude, I was there. So that you can cut. People don't hear that, though. Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah.
The mayor did say, so through the mayor to Ms. McKee, just to be clear for the assembly. So this year, what you did differently going into this next year is, I think it was Mr. Vaughn sponsor, there's a new committee that starts in October. Ms. McKee's on it, Mr. Fanos on it, Mr. Sumner. So we're going to dive in and have that exact conversation about, well, I think administration's bloated. Great, let's chase that out in October, November, December, maybe into January. Let's not do that in May. And so we're going to get in front of that. That's a product of you voting in that new committee, and we're talking to the administration over there so that we can sit in a room toe to toe and go at it and figure out what the answers are, so that when we get into March and have a joint meeting and they ask for money, hopefully we've asked those tough questions even before then, so there's opportunity for some back and forth.
Okay. Are you finished? Okay. Mr. Attorney, parting comments? Okay, all right. The thoughts that are going through my mind regarding the town hall is probably that slide that you did talk about regarding back in April, of what. And because, we've heard it here, but, the people I don't think have heard it. So in some ways, I think this is my personal opinion, is that you need to toot your own horn regarding what a tight ship you run in this borough. And I don't think people understand. And you could, if however you wanted to do it, tell them that your directors want more people and want more things than what you present to the assembly. That you do that ahead of time. And so people say, well, you guys don't cut or anything like that. Well, you've already done the majority of that cutting before you do present to us. And so, and I think you're having I know that's sort of hard for you to be able to do that, to toot your own horn, but, the only other thing I would say is I know people talked about, well, this ordinance sounds just like the Anchorage ordinance. Well, hopefully they're both under the state of Alaska law. And so they are going to sound pretty much the same, except for the 10 cents or 7 cents and the unified government, because you have to do it legally. And so, just some things like that I think would help people really to be able to understand some of the things that's going on. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 9:48.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Normally I don't have much comment at the end of the meeting, so I can totally understand that you didn't expect me to. But we're talking about fuel tax, so I do have a few comments. First, I'd like to thank the manager for kind of bringing this whole thing to everybody's attention with the, with the debt situation and the situation with the legislature and how they're no longer covering these obligations that that they said that they would cover. But I do think that a fuel tax is not the proper way to go. Fuel taxes are some of the most regressive taxes. I think the only thing that's more regressive than a fuel tax is a sales tax. They hit working people and retirees much harder than they hit anybody else, especially with all the folks that we have here and all the working folks we have here in the Valley that commute to Anchorage for their job. And then we add all these exemptions on the top of it, which make it even more of a burden for the working people to carry. I think if we were to look at other new taxes that I'm not going to be here obviously, but that I would support. I think we should be looking, and I've said this for several years. I think we should be looking at a gravel tax, a gravel excise tax. We export millions of tons of gravel, train loads every single day to Anchorage, and we don't see a penny for that. We don't see a single red cent. So, if you want to raise $5 million a year, I think it'd be pretty easy to raise $5 million a year on that train load of gravel that's going to Anchorage every single year. So that's what I have to say, and thank you for your time.
And my apologies, sir. So I will adjourn the meeting at 9:50.